Chapter 778, Chopping Galore. Chapter 778, Chopping Galore. Proofreader, Papatonks. What? The soul changed. The elder who punched the black dragon gasped and could not get away from it. Zhao Dezhu cried out, That's Zhuofan's dragon soul variant, heaven-devouring demonic dragon king. Correct. Zhuofan snickered then spewed blood. Heaven-devouring demonic dragon king can take on any power for itself. Even if a soul harmony expert punched, it would lose most of its power. You want to smash me? Humph, think again. Zhuofan's eyes flashed with bloodlust and his right eye shone golden as the demonic sword vanished again. It came back from the front of the elder. The elder was scared to death and panicked, but nothing he did could get his fist out of the heaven-devouring demonic dragon king's black energy. In the end, another wail adorned the sky as the demonic blade robbed him of his life by cutting him in two. Blood fell down like rain as the creepy demonic sword returned to Zhuofan's hands. It shone a blood-red light that reflected in the other's eyes. Moreover, trapped in heaven-devouring demonic dragon king, you won't get out so easily, ha ha ha. Zhuofan's laughter pierced their ears, making everyone shiver. The remaining 5 elders felt fear now, with sweat gathering on their brows. That was the third one. If they didn't see it, they wouldn't have believed it. A great soul harmony expert actually died at the hands of a kid not yet in the ethereal stage, and not just one. The blade was just too strange and savage. Not even a soul harmony expert with his soul and body united could handle it. But what else did the kid have beside the sword? Nothing else he used could threaten them. Even so, they understood fully that sword's power and were on high alert. Even as they all were cautious to dodge its edge, they still fell one by one. This was no longer an issue with the sword, but with Zhuofan. He was a threat to everyone. The tragic deaths of 3 of them had the elders admit that they were up against a dangerous enemy. It wasn't just the sword, but the wielder as well. Elder Bai he squinted and shouted, Everyone attack. No matter what it costs, we have to take the vile spawn's head. We'll go after the girls after we have his corpse. Elder Bai his sword is too strong. Our losses will be heavy. One elder spoke. Shaken Elder Bai he shook his head and gnashed his teeth. We don't have a choice. The kid is too weird. If we try anything else, we won't win. The best method is to drown him with numbers, to use superior strength on the weak. When he's so busy fending us all off, he'll die for sure. But. No buts. Elder Bai he cut him off with a flick of his hand. We'll only leave 100 ethereal stage experts anyway. The universal righteous sect can take it. Elder Bai he led the charge, but did not dare to face Zhuofan head-on, going for the dragon soul instead. Those with spiritual weapons, attack his body. The rest, go for his soul. Yes, sir. Seeing an elder beginning the assault, the rest shouted and took out their souls. The remaining 4 elders saw this and nodded. They gripped their spiritual weapons and went for Zhuofan as they unleashed their mighty power. It was like 2 mountains came crumbling down. One went for Zhuofan and the other for the dragon soul. No matter which struck home, he would die either way. However, he could not dodge because behind him were the girls. Ha ha ha, Zhuofan, you want to use yourself to shield the girls? Then I'll walk all over your corpse and grab them. Zhao Dezhu followed Bai he closely as he shouted, See how in 15 minutes you'll end up dead and ruined. And with your fall, those girls will be next. All you've done would be for nothing. You can't save anyone. Zhuofan's brow shook. He looked rather frail, but his eyes held a vague glint. Oh really? Thanks for the reminder. It seems I'll survive a while longer at least. Showing a devilish smile, Zhuofan made a sign soul variant, vaulting dragon king, whoosh tilde. The demonic dragon withdrew its black energy and azure flames began to cover its body. Elder Bai he jerked, but before he could react, the azure dragon opened its maw to unleash a torrent of azure flame at the hundreds of souls around Arg tilde. Wails and cries were heard all around as the wave of souls had not even reached the dragon soul and they were burning in an azure inferno. Their bodies jerked and twitched from pain. The unlucky ones unable to withdraw had been burned down to nothing in a blink. Dozens of ethereal stage experts were gone from this world. Everyone gasped from shock. Even Zhao Dezhu didn't think that the azure dragon that had been passive in Yi Lin's fight would unleash such power. It killed so many and heavily wounded 100. How could any of them know the chaos azure flame might be a gentle flame, weaker in a fight than a fierce flame, like decimating golden flame? It still came from a sacred beast. It was only weaker in relation to that golden dragon. If you thought Azure Dragon was weak because of that, then what happened now was only natural. Elder by he glared at Zhao Dezhu, as if blaming him. Why couldn't you report his strength sooner? How was Zhao Dezhu to know? He was only watching the fight, not participating in it. He only knew that Almighty Scarlet Dragon King was tough while the others were always on defense. Zhao Dezhu felt like crying now. He knew just how bitter Yi Lin and Zhuo Fan's fight was. Their fight was beyond their stage, something the audience could not comprehend. The brat still had some more damn skills. Tell me everything you know already. Elder by he gnashed his teeth and barked. Zhao Dezhu shook his head, his eyes hazy. There shouldn't be any great moves left. Although he has another variant, a purple dragon, but that is used for ambushes, and it's weak. Rumble. As if on cue, purple lightning flashed in waves and crossed the inferno to strike at the hundreds of souls. Dozens of more souls fell right then, and dozens more withdrew with heavy wounds. Is this what you mean by a weak variant? Elder by his face twitched and wanted to slap the kid into the hereafter. Zhao Dezhu lowered his head, puzzled on the inside. Why did Zhuo Fan look so weak when fighting Yi Lin in the Double Dragon Gathering? How is he so strong now? Never mind. I won't ask you who knows nothing. I'll break his dragon soul myself. Elder by he flicked his sleeve enraged, shooting for the dragon soul with the power of soul harmony stage. He easily broke the purple lightning and the azure inferno. Elder by he, the purple dragon variant, has the weakest defense. I won't believe a word you say. Now get lost. Zhao Dezhu's reminder got a reprimand from Elder by he, making him jerk back and stay silent. To stew in anger. I was only trying to help. It's your fault if you die. At the same time, in front of Zhuo Fan, for elders wielding spiritual weapons came to take his life with their superior cultivation. Zhuo Fan clashed with them as he wielded the demonic sword. Elder by he arrived at the purple dragon and raised his fists but did not strike. Looking instead at Zhuo Fan, he saw Zhuo Fan's skill back then. That shift was insanely powerful. Now that he faced 4 experts at full power, if he went head-on, he would die even if the demonic sword ruined the spiritual weapons, as the power would transfer to him and kill him on the spot. But if he shifted away, that would be the best moment for Bai He to kill his soul and end this. He was afraid that he would get stuck like the other elder and end up dead. To make sure this didn't happen, Bai He stayed his hand, not wanting to give his enemy an opening to exploit. Even if Zhuo Fan got to him, he could instantly flee and draw him out, while the 4 elders would focus on the dragon soul. So no matter the choice, Zhuo Fan would die for sure. Details made a plan come together, and Elder by he was a sharp man. That was why he chose to stay his hand, to see what Zhuo Fan would choose. Chapter 779, Chaotic Fight. Chapter 779, Chaotic Fight. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bam! Zhuo Fan's sword clashed with the 4 elders' spiritual weapons, turning them to pieces. Zhuo Fan had to cough blood from that encounter, their power wreaking havoc in his body. Elder by he laughed. This kid doesn't have the strength to move like that again. Of the 3 choices, he picked the quickest to die. Did he give up resisting? This is much better. His insides must be mush right about now and can't use the sword again. Next I'll just smash his dragon soul to pieces. Overjoyed, Elder by his eyes shone and punched, sending all his power forward. The purple lightning struck the attack, but it did nothing to stop it. Boom. With a mighty sound, Elder by he grinned at the shaking dragon. This time you're going to fall, heaven dragon soul. Whoosh tilde. Black energy covered the dragon, switching from purple lighting as it roared. Ha ha ha, I see it now. At the critical moment you'll change to a demonic dragon to disperse my power. Elder by he mocked. So what? Even what remains will be enough to wound you. The only thing great about this dragon soul is that it can change forms and only drag out its death. But I will still kill you either way. Elder by he was about to strike again, but he found that he couldn't. His fist was stuck just like that elder's sneering. Elder by his body shook and unleashed more power to scatter the black energy as he pulled out his fist. Humph, Zhuo Fan, your body is already useless and can't use that instant movement. Your dragon can only stall for a couple of moments. Fighting your body might be a threat to us, but your soul alone can't be saved. Die. Elder by he. However, a cry came from the 4 elders. Looking over he asked, what? Oh, our spiritual weapons aren't ruined. An elder held his spiritual weapon in shock as he shouted by. He jerked and looked careful to see that they were holding their weapons while Zhuofan was coughing blood in front of them. He was wobbling, yet the demonic sword had the same strong vibe. What just happened? If the four elders' spiritual weapons were not ruined, that meant they did not clash with the demonic sword. But why would Zhuofan get himself killed by doing this? To leave his soul alone? Elder Bai he was perplexed. However, a sudden wave of bloodlust came from behind. Startled, Bai he panicked and tried to dodge, only to find that his hand was still stuck in the black dragon, though it would only last for a couple of moments, more than enough to kill him. As blood spurted, Elder Bai his body was severed. I've been had. Elder Bai his lips trembled, forcing himself to turn around, to see Zhuofan's cold eyes and bloody mouth. What happened? Cough tilde. Zhuofan kept coughing, though his face was flat. No matter how cautious you are, the moment you win, you'll feel invincible. I only gave you that moment, that's all. Elder Bai he looked at Zhuofan hovering in the air, then at the Zhuofan behind him with hazy eyes. Why are there two of him? Ha ha ha, ignorance is crime. You have no way of knowing all I'm capable of. Grinning, Zhuofan's right eye flashed in 3 golden halos, divine eye of the void's 3rd stage, mirage world. Whoosh tilde. The one holding the demonic sword kept spewing blood, yet vanished the next second, leaving only the Zhuofan behind. By he, grinning at the 4 remaining elders' illusion. Everyone understood that even if Zhuofan popped behind Elder Bai he still couldn't kill him even with the dragon soul holding him. He had to lure him first, but with the elder seeing his trick once, was he going to fall for it as well? So Zhuofan set up an illusion, letting Bai he think he faced them head on and letting him attack the soul in peace. The illusion was easy to break, as the 4 elders found their spiritual weapons didn't crumble when meeting with the demonic sword, but Elder Bai he, who was not around, only saw that the plan worked and couldn't help but strike as well. At that moment, Zhuofan capitalized on the elder's mistake. Elder Bai he looked at the sky as his eyes became empty and he died. The 2 halves of his body fell to the ground, his eyes forever open in regret. Who'd have thought a great soul harmony expert would die with such regret? That's 4. Shaken to the core, the 4 remaining elders looked at Zhuofan panting heavily and spewing blood, yet all they felt was fear as they backed away. He wasn't even in the ethereal stage, also wounded and surrounded, yet still killed a soul harmony expert. The first time was a miracle, the second was a mishap, but the third one had them all attacking to prevent any more from dying. Then the 4th kill came and proved he had the power. Still the 4 elders felt their hearts sinking looking into those savage eyes. Who the hell is this guy? In the end, they were hardened cultivators of many years, soon recovering their calm after a bit of shock. They were soul harmony experts. How could a mere radiant stage prick kill 4 of them? Attack. All of you attack. No plans, just kill the damn kid no matter the cost. Finally, as 4 of them died, the elders went mad as they shouted, going for Zhuofan head on. The remaining ethereal stage experts followed them. Zhao Dezhu was even in front, his eyes bloodshot. He had asked for this fight from the sect. Now 4 elders lay dead, and if he didn't get his head, he could never get back to the sect. Zhuofan looked at the flood of people charging over and tightened his grip on the demonic sword. He took a deep breath and gnashed his teeth as he charged as well with his weary body. This had never happened before in the history of time. Hundreds of experts ganged up on a lower cultivator. This was a bloody and thunderous chaotic battle. If the universal righteous sect had gone all out from the start, their losses wouldn't have been so great. But in this chaos, the death toll only rose. The ethereal stage experts unleashed their souls on Zhuofan without regard for their safety. Zhuofan's azure dragon spewed fire that killed many, the purple dragon sent purple lightning that singed even more, but the tide could not be stopped. Slamming into the dragon's soul, Zhuofan spat blood again, his eyes going dark and about to fall unconscious. But he had someone to protect. He bit his tongue to wake up the purple dragon, shifted into the demonic dragon, to absorb as much as possible of those soul attacks. Then it switched to almighty Scarlet Dragon King, and with a lash of the whip, destroying dozens of more souls. This was how the dragon soul kept changing form to deal with the storm of souls coming to rob his life. He instead robbed their lives, bodies falling from the sky after giving out one last mournful cry under the constant attacks. The dragon soul was battered as well, howling constantly. Zhuofan endured the pain his soul was suffering and charged head on with the demonic sword in hand, his eyes bloodshot. Everywhere he went, Someone would fall to pieces. Another pile of bodies started hitting the ground. The 4 elders held their weapons and charged at his body. Zhuo Fan wielded the demonic sword and clashed with them 100 times, yet no winner was revealed. The demonic sword forced the elders to keep retreating after each attack. Its savage blade reaped dozens of ethereal stage experts with every swing. No one could approach their battle as each fought to gain the advantage. This had long stopped being a trap, becoming a bitter war, 500 people against one man. It was utter chaos. Chapter 780, You're Not Worthy. Chapter 780, You're Not Worthy. Proofreader, Papatonks. Where am I? The heavy night descended as a bloody man crawled out of the grass. The stench of blood around him made him cough, sometimes even vomit. The clear moon sent her soft rays, shining its light on this weary man's face. Facepalming, Zhao Dezhu pondered before getting up. He was ordered by his sect to kill the demon Zhuo Fan. But he was just too strong, unable to get him even with superior numbers. That last tail swipe from the almighty Scarlet Dragon King killed so many, and since he was at the front, even if he survived it, only now did he wake up from the heavy blow. He was in the dark about whether that Zhuo Fan was finished or not. Zhao Dezhu looked at the moon above and sighed, it's already dark. He has to have fallen by now. But how many died? As if on cue, the world seemed to answer him as the moon shone on the limbs and bodies laying in bloody mud. Where he was right now was right in the middle of a river of blood. That many? Zhao Dezhu looked around in shock at the Hell's Cape and gruesome display, at the limbs without a body to match. Zhao Dezhu shook and muttered, What now? What now? I can't take the blame for these losses. Boom. However, his musing to weasel out were put on hold at the sound of that explosion and the incoming gale whipping his face. Startled, Zhao Dezhu rushed forward, flying towards the fire in the sky. The Universal Righteous Sect still had 100 ethereal stage experts gasping for breath and staring at their enemy with fear and shock. But what was more pronounced were the feelings of hatred and terror. In front of them stood 3 elders in dirty and ripped clothes, the spiritual weapons in their hands shaking. In no way. He's still alive. Zhao Dezhu's heart sank and flew over, squeezing between the men and getting in front. But the scene he saw left him shell-shocked. Before them was the same dragon, although wretched and with broken scales, about to breathe its last. It still swiped its tail as it fought the crowd with utter determination. Just like Zhuo Fan, it was going to fight to the last breath. In front of it stood a man covered in blood, holding a demonic sword as blood dripped from his face. His eyes were welcoming death, his face was flat. The tens of ghastly wounds on his body kept spewing out blood. Some of the wounds even had dried blood on them. Despite all the pain and damage, he still stood. He stared at the men before him with a dead and firm look. An elder shifted his leg and shot forth. The sword pierced forward, but then he jerked back even faster. Frowning, the elder looked at the others with fury. Is Zhuo Fan even human? We've ruined his body to this degree, his innards are crushed, but yet he still killed an elder. He had killed 400 ethereal stage experts and took down 5 soul harmony elders as well. He had paid for it, getting so many wounds on his body and soul. I just can't believe he's alive even after all that. Will he die only when his soul is ripped apart? This kid is too tough. Is he really in the radiant stage? Another elder panted, his whole body covered in blood as he stared at Zhuo Fan with bitterness. If we want to destroy his soul, I fear we'll all be annihilated. He might be on his last breath, but I know that his body is as tough as a zombie's. If we want to kill him, we'll have to pay the price. And to think this used to be an easy mission. Now look what came of it. The other 2 nodded, yeah. What? As the trio discussed, a shout had them all startled. They saw Zhao Dezhu in shock as he wobbled over. Elders, what are you saying? We've lost so many. 5 soul harmony stage elders and 400 ethereal stage experts. The elders sighed and nodded, shaking all over. Zhao Dezhu turned around and looked outraged at Zhuo Fan panting in the distance. Zhuo Fan, why aren't you dead yet? I personally asked for this mission from the sect. With so many dead, how am I to explain it? Zhao Dezhu's raving was unheard by Zhuo Fan. He just stood there with a cold gaze. 500 ethereal stage experts and 8 elders were sent, yet we can't even catch a radiant stage cultivator after a whole day of fighting. We even lost so many men and 5 elders. This outcome had finally sinked in to Zhao Dezhu as he raved. Just what the hell are you? Why can't you just die? You just kept fighting the universal righteous sect's 500 experts to not overtake you for one day. You ruined my life. You ruined my future. Zhuo Fan just stood there in silence. The others reminded Zhao Dezhu, senior brother, we've been fighting for 3 days, not one. What? Zhao Dezhu's but hit the ground from the shock. I've been out for 3 days. He's been holding on for 3 days. The 3 elders flushed and lowered their heads in shame. So many men were fighting, yet they could not take one radiant stage cultivator down even after 3 days. Talk about a humiliation. The ever-silent Zhuo Fan finally let out a stiff voice. Ha ha ha, I see, it's been 3 days. That means you won't catch them. With those words, Zhuo Fan collapsed and the dragon soul closed its eyes and vanished. Only the sword entered Zhuo Fan and was gone. Startled, the men looked around stumped. Why did he suddenly collapse when no one did anything when he lasted 3 days of fighting? Zhao Dezhu was also startled. An elder came to Zhuo Fan and sighed, I see, he's already dead. He's dead. Zhao Dezhu cried, but he was still. The elder shook his head, he was holding on that last breath to stop us from chasing the girls. With this last effort he held us back for 3 days. In fact, his body must have died long ago, only his soul remaining. How strange, he is covered in deep wounds, each deadly, yet he could still stand. He must have died on his feet. Taking a deep breath, another elder stared at Zhuo Fan. When any other's body is destroyed, their soul would scatter. But he could drag out the last breath with his body up till now. Such willpower, even for a demonic cultivator, it's that of a hero. How freakish, he's an unheard of monster. The third elder's eyes flashed, filled with bloodlust. Don't forget, he controlled his heavily wounded soul and this broken corpse to fight us for 3 days. No matter how heroic, how can one breath last him for so long? Who can control both the body and the soul? This thing would be too dangerous to be left alive. The 3 elders nodded and shouted, kill. They all struck at once, holding nothing back even against his corpse. They were soul harmony experts and their blows would sure wipe off every trace of his existence. However, a flash of golden slammed the trio away. When they stopped, they saw a youth in a golden cloak. Yi Lin, what are you doing here? Zhao Dezhu cried out, ignoring him. Yi Lin only looked at Zhuo Fan, placing him on his shoulder. The elders shouted, put him down right now. You want to kill him? Yi Lin sneered as he looked at them with despise. You're not worthy. Chapter 781, Inferno. Chapter 781, Inferno. Proofreader, Papatonks. Shaking all over, the 3 elders' expressions turned heavy. They might have not gone to Double Dragon Gathering, but they heard of him from Zhao Dezhu's report. Yi Lin, Double Dragon Gathering's runner-up. He fought with Zhuo Fan on the same level, even being able to push Zhuo Fan back for a while. Such an expert had to be on the same level as Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan alone was bad enough, reducing them to this state, but adding Yi Lin into the mix and their hearts sank. However, they were not about to let Zhuo Fan, who was barely even alive, go. They had paid too much already, and if they did not achieve some manner of success, they would be too ashamed to return to the sect. So, one elder flicked his spiritual weapon and stepped forward as he urged, Ultimate Clarity Sect is a righteous sect like the Universal Righteous Sect. Yi Lin, we have heard of your great name, the future of our righteous path. Why then would you have come to save a demonic cultivator whelp? If we don't get rid of him now, he will be a calamity upon the righteous sects, you included. I'm sure you don't want to be beneath another, to let Western Land's strongest man title fall in the hands of a vile demonic cultivator. Today, the Universal Righteous Sect stepped in to eliminate him, to purge demons and protect Western Land's righteous path. Just turn a blind eye and leave him here. You won't be reprimanded for it, being called cynical or jealous. You won't get your hands dirty and you'd get famous as well. 2 birds with 1 stone. Shut your trap. The elder appealed to his devotion and on his practical side, thinking Yi Lin would surely agree since he'd be the biggest winner in this. However, the elder was rudely cut off. He stared at Yi Lin's dark look as the young man raged, a loss is a loss, a win is a win. I will never lower myself to these filthy schemes and stain my name as a sacred beast inheritor. Sacred beast inheritor? The others looked at each other puzzled. What's that? Humph, nothing but a bunch of despicable dirtbags from the mortal domain. It's like talking to retards. Yi Lin mocked them, then looked at Zhuo Fan on his shoulder and sighed. This man might be the only one like me in the world. Yi Lin's hand shone golden and a fist-sized ball appeared, releasing golden flames that burned hot. The others jerked back in fear. They did not know what that was, but it released a true power of destruction. They could feel it in their bones that it was terrifying. Not even the three elders could take it on. They gulped and sweated as they looked at it. Yi Lin, what is that? Zhao Dezhu shook backward, finally working up his courage. Yi Lin snickered, the dead don't need to know. And who the hell would be on the same side with you? In this world, only one man is worthy. The rest are worthless. Yi Lin flicked his shoulder and the golden ball shot into the crowd. Their instinct screamed at them to flee, not that they could boom. In a huge explosion that scattered the clouds, even the earth cracked. The golden ball exploded in everyone's faces, unleashing its scorching flames everywhere. In a blink, an inferno was born. The fire burned high and warped the air as it did, on the verge of breaking space itself. Zhao Dezhu and his 100 experts, the three elders included, had no time to even cry out. Obliterated down to the last vestige, the inferno spread for 1,000 miles, burning everything and turning it into hell. Nothing living remained. Yi Lin looked coldly and then faded away from this place. Meanwhile, whoosh tilde. In the dead of night, three girls fled, with the leading one showing signs of crying. Sister Qingcheng, it's been 3 days. They shouldn't chase us now. Let's rest. Dana saw Chu Qingcheng's weary look and proposed. Shui Ruohua nodded. Qingcheng, in your sadness you gave all you had and are hurt. It's best we rest for now. Maybe Zhuo Fan would even catch up. No, Zhuo Fan is using his life so we can escape. How can we fail him? Closing her eyes, Chu Qingcheng gnashed her teeth, her eyes tearing up again. We'll only stop when we get to Double Dragon Manor. Chu Qingcheng's voice was firm. The girls shook their heads and sighed. Boom, a huge explosion came from far away, followed by towering flames. Such an intense heat spread everywhere as it scorched everything. The girls were flying yet could still feel the heat wave reaching them, pushing them into the ground. When they finally got up, they stood dumbstruck. The inferno reached the heavens, like a gateway to hell. Nothing alive was spared. Even though they were thousands of miles away, they could still feel its scorching heat lick their faces. Gods, what happened there? Where did this fire come from? Dana gasped and then cried out, isn't that where Brother Zhuo is? Dana! Shui Ruohua shouted and glared at her, startled. Dana noticed Chu Qingcheng looked at the fire with a stunned look, her eyes shedding tears. Zhuo Fan. With a wail, Chu Qingcheng flew onward, but Shui Ruohua stopped her. Qingcheng, are you crazy? With such a raging fire, you'll die if you go. I don't care. Zhuo Fan. Chu Qingcheng lost her calm, giving a mournful cry and struggling to go. Shui Ruohua steeled her heart and struck her neck, rendering her unconscious. Looking at Dana, the two sighed at the crying Chu Qingcheng. They had never seen the always dignified girl be so frantic. She really cared for Zhuo Fan. Heart in pain, Dana pitied Chu Qingcheng. Then she asked, Senior Sister Ruohua, what do we do now? What else can we do? Get Qingcheng to Double Dragon Manor. Only there will we be safe. And Brother Zhuo? Dana asked, looking back at the blaze. Shui Ruohua sighed. This inferno is not something we can handle. I hope he's all right. But Shui Ruohua shook her head and her eyes were filled with sorrow. Dana lowered her head, her eyes moist. She knew that under such devastating destruction, Zhuo Fan had no chance at all. The two took Chu Qingcheng with a heavy heart and resumed their journey to Double Dragon Manor in Windgaze City. Luo Clan. Zhuo Fan. Shuang'er was sleeping when she suddenly jolted awake and shouting. Her eyes were shining like the clear starry sky, her face a mask of fear. Creak tilde. The door opened and Luo Yunhai with Luo Yunchang entered. Luo Yunchang sat next to her and asked, Shuang'er, what happened? Why did you shout with all your strength? You have everyone scared. What exactly is going on? Sister Yunchang, Zhuo Fan is dead. Shuang'er's lips quivered as tears fell. Luo Yunhai shook in disbelief. Shuang'er, what are you saying? He is married to Edifice Lord Chu and a sect leader. He should be happy right now, not. Luo Yunchang's eyes teared up, her heart frantic. I don't know. Shuang'er shook her head. I just really saw how Zhuo Fan fell in a pool of blood, then the golden flames. Clan head, Sister Shuang'er is the holy maiden of the empire, peering into the workings of the world. Steward Zhua might be outside such machinations, but this premonition might not be unfounded. Lung Wuchang analyzed, it seems it has gone as I feared, and so quick at that. Luo Yunhai flicked his hand and shouted, Guard, send a spy to the demon scheming sect to feel them out. Report back at once. Yes, sir. A shout came from beyond the door. Chapter 782, Ren Xiaoyun. Chapter 782, Ren Xiaoyun. Proofreader, Papatonks. Knock tilde. In a dusky room, with few lights arranged, the face of High Venerable was reflected as he sat cross-legged. A heavy voice came from outside, breaking his peace. Who is it? Master, it's I. I came to pay my respects. A familiar voice spoke with respect. Elder Yuan spoke. Wu Yue, you haven't done it for centuries, so what made you pick the habit again? Ha ha ha, it's not so strange, Master. Xie Wu spoke. I have been a sect leader all this time, keeping with the sect's norms, and could not pay my master any respects. Now that I have stepped down and I'm free, I of course have to make up for all those years. Elder Yuan felt doubt inside, but softened in the end. Wanting to go back to those close times with his disciple, he lifted the seal on the door. Enter. The heavy stone door was pushed open and Xie Wu stepped in with a smile. He kneeled and kowtowed 3 times. Master, I came to pay my respects. Like a good child, Xie Wu put on a genial face, nodding. Elder Yuan's eyes held a hint of sneer. Wu Yue, you only came here for your own reason, not to pay me respects. Master, I would never. Humph, a master knows his student. You were never so honest. Elder Yuan sighed and waved. Say your piece. Xie Wu looked Elder Yuan in the eye as he chuckled. The older, the wiser, as they say. I can't hide anything from Master. Ha ha ha, Master, I have reflected deeply on your guidance a month ago and ask that Master gives me another chance. You still want to be a sect leader? Elder Yuan eyed him. Xie Wu nodded with a smile. Yes, a nation can't be without a king, and the same applies to a sect. Zhuo Fan has gone to Double Dragon Manor just as he became sect leader, leaving the seat empty. If it was just a couple of days or so, it wouldn't matter, but he will be gone for decades. Not handling the matters a sect leader does will lead to the sect becoming a mess. Don't worry, there's also me. Moreover, there are venerables helping. Master, you're the High Venerable. Leading the sect's matters in the name of the sect leader will lead to bad rumors. If it drags out, some might say that High Venerable wants to break the sect's ancient rules, to take matters into your own hand and the seat. Who would spread such gossip? Elder Yuan looked squarely at Xie Wu. Xie Wu's head jerked back, lowering it as he bowed. I could never try to surmise what my master thinks, but others will surely prattle and ruin master's name. Especially those venerables, who only scheme and fight each other. They may be agreeing with everything you say now, but when their power grow, they would take matters into their own hands. As a venerable, since you can handle the sect's affairs, why can't they? That's why there are ancient rules. Deposing and even fraternization is possible, but only a sect leader can lead. Or it will affect people's hearts and invite disaster. Humph, who would scheme to exceed sect leader's authority? Elder Yuan stood up and flicked his sleeve as he shouted, I am an open man and only handle the matters of the sect in Zhuo Fan's stead for the next years. When he returns, he will be taking up his duty as sect leader. Face twitching, Xie Wu's expression darkened. Master, you're too heartless. You'd rather wait on him than let me lead for these decades, rather than give me a chance. I promise that in these years, I will see to the public opinion. Once he's back, no one will follow him. Let all know that there's only one sect leader. Xie Wu. Wu Yue, I see now you not once reflected on what I told you. With a saddened look, Elder Yuan shook his head. Public opinion is merely a method, while what matters is wisdom. That is what makes people follow you. Without it, you might catch their hearts in short term, but they would soon scatter later. When you understand the meaning of Tao, when you find your path, we'll then speak of the sect leader position. Taking a deep breath, Xie Wu's eyes went cold, clutching his fists. Tao? Humph, Master, you're only being vague. Who can understand such unreal things? You're only using it as an excuse to stop me from being a sect leader. Slowly turning away, Elder Yuan no longer looked at him. He sighed in disappointment. Master, you're casting me out. I am trying so hard here, but you. Xie Wuyue tensed and his clenched fists crackled. Then a hint of bloodthirst appeared in his eyes. He made a claw with his hand and struck Elder Yuan's waist. High profound ranked martial art, Flood Dragon Claw. Whoosh tilde. Xie Wuyue's dark claw arrived right before Elder Yuan. Elder Yuan was outraged. He never thought his disciple would have the nerve to strike his master down. Elder Yuan unleashed his power as well. His heavy power pressed on Xie Wuyue, stopping the claw in its track. Elder Yuan flicked his hand and grabbed his arm to throw him out. Bam! Xie Wuyue was slammed into the wall like a ragdoll before slumping to the ground. He coughed a lot of blood. Xie Wuyue, you're insane. I'm your master, yet you dare raise your hand. Clenching his fists, Elder Yuan's eyes were bloodshot from anger. Xie Wuyue gave a crazed mocking smile. Master? You threw me off the sect leader seat and you dare call yourself master? Elder Yuan's face shook, his heart overcome with grief. Tilde. A green glow enveloped the dusky room. Xie Wuyue mocked. Impermanence 5, you finally came out. You make for poor bodyguards. What if I had hurt High Venerable? No one in the sect can surpass High Venerable in power. You can't hurt him. Our duty is only to prevent an ambush and disturb High Venerable's cultivation. Elder Shi's voice came from green glow. As your master and disciple, we should not interfere, but sect leader Xie, you need to understand, High Venerable had never mistreated you. He had handled the matter of the sect leader position perfectly. Or did you really think you'd be alive if Shuofan started a fight? Xie Wuyue wiped the blood from his mouth and nodded. You're right, and I know that. That's why I gave him one last chance to change his mind. Help me take my seat back while Shuofan was not here. However, he cast me out. It's not my fault here. Moreover, since I did not kill him with my strike, you can take it as repaying his favor for saving me. You've simply lost it. Xie Wuyue, you really think you could have harmed me? Elder Yuan shouted. Impermanence 5, arrest Xie Wuyue. Yes, sir. The elders nodded and made a sign. The green glow flashed and sent green lights for Xie Wuyue and around him with an evil glint in his eyes. Xie Wuyue mocked, not minding it at all. Ha ha ha, lost it? Yuan Xinggang, don't think you're the strongest in demon scheming sect, that you're untouchable. I could have really killed you back then, but I didn't to break the ties between us. We don't owe each other anything now. What? Xie Wuyue shook his arm and the storage ring on his hand flashed. A mighty power exploded from within and slammed into the vicissitude domain. Boom. The green glow shook and the Impermanence 5 had no cough. Blood, who did this? Elder Shi roared. A cackle entered their ears. Demon scheming sect's Impermanence 5 sure are something. You still breathe and only your domain is broken despite suffering the might of a soul harmony stage. Whoosh tilde. A grey figure of a middle-aged man appeared tall and imposing before Elder Yuan. Elder Yuan gasped in shock. Heaven Trailing sect leader, Ren Xiaoyun? Ha ha ha, it is indeed I. Ren Xiaoyun turned to Xie Wuyue's ring. It was a smart move to use the ring for an ambush. How did you came up with it, sect leader Xie? Xie Wuyue bowed slightly. I only learned it from a certain shameless traitor. I didn't think it would work to bring you so easily before High Venerable. High Venerable, now do you believe me? Xie Wuyue turned to Elder Yuan with a smile. If it wasn't me who struck you before, but sect leader Ren from the ring, you would have died instead of preaching to me. Elder Yuan's beard shook as he gnashed his teeth. That's why I said I went easy on you for being your disciple. Ha ha ha, Xie Wuyue snickered. Chapter 783, Shocking Changes in the Sect. Chapter 783, Shocking Changes in the Sect. Proofreader, Papatonks. Why? High Venerable squinted at Ren Xiaoyun. As the sect leader of Heaven Trailing Sect, the head of the Empire's 3 guardian sects, how could you side with this stubborn disciple and enter my sect to do this despicable thing? Ren Xiaoyun waved his hand in disdain. Oh no, 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 High Venerable, you misunderstand. That stubborn disciple is a great sect leader. I only accepted sect leader's invitation to help him settle the chaos. What chaos? Elder Yuan soon realized as he watched the two's devious grins. I see. I was wondering how the Heaven Trailing Sect would dare meddle with the Demon Scheming Sect unafraid of Double Dragon Manor. Heaven Trailing Sect, you two already have your excuse ready. using settling the chaos to eliminate the opposition and put him on his seat. Grinning, Ren Xiaoyun nodded. High Venerable Shaw is wise, figuring out so fast. But you shouldn't say it. After all, we're righteous cultivators, and labeling us like this would hurt our name. Humph, yeah, Heaven Trailing Sect is mighty righteous. Elder Yuan squinted and gnashed his teeth, turning to Xie Wuyue. You consorted with another sect to shame your ancestors and master. Do you really think you have any right to be a sect leader? Consorting? Didn't Shuo Fan do the same by bringing outsiders to steal my power? Why did you still take his side and spit on me? Zhuo Fan brought his own men and did not take the sect. But you had Heaven Trailing Sect come here. Just what did you have to pay for this? Elder Yuan roared. Xie Wuyue clenched his fists but did not speak. Ren Xiaoyun smiled. I'll answer that. To help sect leader Xie regain his seat, my Heaven Trailing Sect would offer its support for the low price of 5,000 sacred stones. The mystical Heaven Sect didn't want anything, happy with just getting revenge by killing all that ruined his sect. What? Elder Yuan shook, looking at Xie Wuyue in disbelief. You actually gave half of the rewards of Double Dragon Gathering to an outsider and even brought our enemy to kill us? As they talked, there were shouts and battle cries coming from outside. Elder Yuan was furious. He knew the sect had a traitor working with the outsiders to lead to the ruin of the sect. It might never recover from this. Xie Wuyue fell silent, but then he spoke coldly. If the sect isn't mine, what use do I have for it? Why would I let anyone who won't obey me live? Why, you little? Pointing a shaking finger at Xie Wuyue, Elder Yuan went red from anger as he barked, You're just like Tianyu's emperor. Xie Wuyue, you were never worthy to be a sect leader. You're a traitor to the demon scheming sect, and I will remove you in the name of our ancestors. Elder Yuan charged at Xie Wuyue, the power he released pushing Xie Wuyue back. He never thought that as a peak ethereal stage expert, he would be unable to resist High Venerable's pressure. But then Ren Xiaoyun laughed and blocked his palm. Ha ha ha, High Venerable. Aren't you looking down on me by killing someone with me here? You do know we're here to help sect leader Xie settle the chaos. If the sect leader died, how could our excuse stand? You'd go and get Double Dragon Mana to fight us. Ha ha ha, that just won't do. Ren Xiaoyun, screw off, or today is your funeral. Elder Yuan roared. Ren Xiaoyun smiled. Yuan Xinggang, you must be so full of yourself. As far as I know, you're nothing but a peak ethereal stage expert, while I'm in the second layer of soul harmony stage. You won't kill me even if you want to. The two's attacks clashed. Bam. A fierce sound echoed and Elder Yuan was pushed back 5 steps while Ren Xiaoyun 10 steps. How is this possible? Ren Xiaoyun looked at him in disbelief while crying out, You're in the soul harmony stage? What? Xie Wuyue was shocked and perplexed. No way, that's impossible. Master told me his constitution is lacking and won't go beyond the ethereal stage in his life. How can he be in the soul harmony stage? With a smile of disdain, earthen dragon scales appeared on Elder Yuan's hands. It was my blessing to meet Shuo Fan, giving me a 10th grade pill, heaven-reaching pill to change my constitution and break through. My soul is also that of an earth dragon. Once uniting it with my body, I'll be as strong as the earth. I might be in the first layer, but to deal with a third layer isn't a problem. That goes double for the second layer. Curses. How could this happen? I underestimated you, demon scheming sect's High Venerable. Ren Xiaoyun turned Xiaoyu's and unleashed all his power, no longer looking down on him. Xie Wuyue could hardly believe it as he asked, Is that why you sided with Shuo Fan, because he helped you? Humph, fool, I've always been impartial. You know that very well. Elder Yuan mocked him. You only asked to come up with an excuse for Shuo Fan taking the seat as a result of siding with him, making you feel that being the sect leader is justly. But I already told you, Xie Wuyue, you'll never amount to what Shuo Fan is. He replaced you and brought back Dao. For trying to take back the sect leader position in betrayal, you had incurred heaven's wrath. Xie Wuyue's eyes were bloodshot from anger as he bellowed, Enough. Why do you keep trusting an outsider but not your own disciple? You must die for this. Humph, we'll just see who goes first. Elder Yuan shouted and shot for Xie Wuyue, but Ren Xiaoyun blocked him. Bang tilde. Powerful shockwaves spread, making even the 9th grade array shake from how much power was unleashed. Elder Yuan and Ren Xiaoyun were tangled up for now, unable to make a winner clear so soon. Xiaowuwa looked from the side, feeling like not even sect leader Ren could keep him safe and wanted to slip away, but Elder Yuan shouted, "Impermanence 5, grab that degenerate disciple." "Yes, sir." Impermanence 5 shouted and released their vicissitude domain, trapping Xiaowuwa as countless green lights wrapped around him. Curses. Xiaowuwa hurriedly made a sign, calling for a flood dragon. His soul, it was not up to Earth Dragon Soul standard, but it was still a top beast soul. The Impermanence 5 would have a hard time for a while in this room. Elder Yuan and Impermanence 5 were fighting with Heaven Trailing Sect's sect leader and a traitor. Outside it, fires and chaos reigned as bodies piled up. Heaven Trailing Sect was a middle 3 sect, with tons of experts, adding to that mystical Heaven Sect hellbent on revenge and Venerable Sha working behind the scenes. Venerable Bai's faction was caught unprepared under the sudden onslaught. They had no power to fight back, only dying one after the other, with a wail or a pleading for mercy. The best in the sect, High Venerable, was now caught up in a fight with Ren Xiaoyun. The second Venerable, Venerable Sha, was a traitor, joining their killing. Who could save them now? At the brink of despair, they could only breathe their lives in this hell. Curses. Why is there an enemy attack? Why hasn't the sect array given a sign? Arg. What's going on? Why are there so many enemies? Save me. Help. Watua. Wails reigned as sect leader Xian led the charge in a crazed assault. Kill them with joy, kill them good. Let them pay for ruining mystical Heaven Sect, for killing my son. I won't let any of them escape. Kill them to the last man, ha ha ha. Venerable Sha was silent at the side, just fiddling with his beard. The elders and venerables behind him sighed. They were from the inner sect and against the labor office, but they were from the same sect. Seeing their own people slaughtered filled them with pain. Sect leader Xian is enjoying his revenge, so why are you here to watch this hellish brutality? A cold voice reached Venerable Sha's ear. Moreover, the dead are all part of your sect. Even if you have differences, they're on the same side. Shouldn't you at least not want to see the disciple fall like this? Venerable Sha shook and looked back and shouted, "Why you?" Chapter 784, Heaven Trailing Sword. Chapter 784, Heaven Trailing Sword. Proofreader, Papatonks. Heaven Trailing Sword of the One Sword 5 Dragons. Appearing before Venerable Sha was a cold man in his 30s. He had sharp brows and shining eyes, with but a hint of white on his temples. He gulped. He might look young, but Venerable Sha knew that he was as strong as High Venerable. Known as Heaven Trailing Sword and even above the 5 dragons, High Venerable was part of. He never thought that since this operation was a cinch with the two sides joining up, Heaven Trailing Sect would send such a powerhouse here as well to make sure everything run like clockwork. Venerable Sha hurriedly bowed. "Forgive me for not being there to welcome you, Senior. I did not expect sect leader Ren to show so much care in our cooperation, to even have Senior here. Sect leader didn't ask me to come. I came by myself." Heaven Trailing Sword cut him off. "Rare are those in the Western Lands 9 sect that can catch my eye. While your High Venerable is of a past generation, I still respect him." Venerable Sha tensed and his face froze. What's that supposed to mean? Did he come to help the old coot? As long as he lives, the betrayal will be ruined. Sweating like a pig, Venerable Sha was filled with worry. The man mocked him. "No need to fret. Since it's sect leader who leads the attack, the Heaven Trailing Sect will join him as well. I of course won't disobey him. I only came to see him before he dies." He then showed a sad look and asked, "By the way, I heard that sect leader came to fight him. Where is he?" "In the main hall's side room. Go a mile forward and then you'll find it on your side." Venerable Sha eased a breath and guided him. The man nodded and flew away, but not before saying his last piece. "Oh, right, you still haven't answered my question. What are your thoughts on seeing your fellow people getting butchered?" Well, Venerable Sha was lost for words. The man laughed and mocked. "There used to be men in the demon scheming sect, but from now on, there won't be any more." The man was gone. Venerable Sha, who was that man? "He's too cocky." One elder huffed, wanting to deal with him. "He was clearly mocking us. He may be from Heaven Trailing Sect, but he's too arrogant. We're working together now, but not even sect leader Ren disregarded us. Everyone stands to gain from this." "Shut your mouth." Venerable Sha glared at him and sighed. Even in the Heaven Trailing Sect, That man is an absolute existence, only beneath sect leader. He's just like our High Venerable, if not more amazing. The man couldn't believe it. You mean? Yes, his Heaven Trailing sect's High Venerable, Heaven Trailing Sword Xiao Yunshan. Venerable Sha sighed, thinking back to when Heaven Trailing sect was still a lower 3 sect. He alone rose the sect to be a middle 3 sect in the Double Dragon Gathering, solidifying the sect's position. That year, only he entered the Double Dragon Manor. He was a monster like Shuafan is today. The elder gasped, I didn't think Heaven Trailing sect would send even him. It's too much. Our forces are more than enough. Why? Are you deaf? Didn't you hear he came by himself? Venerable Sha sighed, heroes respect heroes. He and High Venerable had been friends back then and now he came to send him off. The elder nodded and frowned, as long as he won't help him. Relax, Heaven Trailing Sword is most loyal to his sect. Since Heaven Trailing sect works with us, High Venerable is their enemy. The fact he came only assures of our success. Grinning evilly, Venerable Sha said, High Venerable is dead for sure. The others nodded, with only sect leader Xian ignoring them completely, focused as he was on dishing out pain and death. His eyes were crazed. Kill, ha ha ha. Ever since his son died, the old coot lost his marbles, ignoring even Heaven Trailing Sword. Venerable Sha pointed and the others sneered at the mad geezer. Meanwhile, in the room, powerful waves spread out constantly that shook the room. One more explosion, the barrier was about to give Elder Yuan and Ren Xiaoyun fought bitterly, with every punch and kick enough to rend space and destroy everything. Such power made the impermanence 5-foot vicissitude domain shake as well and hard to maintain. Xiaowu was panicking at the side because he could see that sect leader Ren was slipping. If he did not leave now, he would die at Elder Yuan's hand. Elder Yuan actually entered the Soul Harmony stage and became such a powerhouse. Now that he fused with the Earth Dragon Soul, he was tough as nails. Not even Ren Xiaoyun in the second layer of Soul Harmony stage could cope. Xiaowu's heart sank. The violent Flood Dragon Soul clawed at the vicissitude domain to get out, but it was just too strong even for the sect leader at this time. The worst happened. Bang tilde. Elder Yuan flicked a dragon claw and slammed Ren Xiaoyun's fist away, then used this chance to land 3 heavy palms on his chest. With a groan, Ren Xiaoyun spat blood and flew backward. Sect leader Ren Xiaowue cried out in fear, I'm done for. Sect leader Ren lost. Now High Venerable will come for me. As Xiaowue lost his grip, Impermanence 5 used this chance to send green rays at him to seal him up. Even the Flood Dragon had to howl at being stuck. Xiaowue jerked and his heart sank in despair. He would soon die. Whoosh tilde. Elder Yuan's palm struck with all his might for Ren Xiaoyun's head, to finish him for good. Ren Xiaoyun was startled and was about to dodge, but he was slow from the previous wound. He was feeling regret for coming here in person instead of sending a bunch of oldies after this old coot. Maybe he wanted to see the hidden dragon among the 5 dragons, demon scheming sect's High Venerable. He was after all the only person respected by Heaven Trailing sect's Heaven Trailing Sword. Now look what happened. This old coot was so tough that he entered Soul Harmony stage and now was about to kill him. He brought this on himself. He finally knew what it meant by curiosity killed the cat, not that it helped him now. Seeing the palm coming closer and the death it promised, Ren Xiaoyun's heart sank, finding hard to swallow this outcome. Whoosh. However, they saw as a flashing sword wave came and Elder Yuan's palm did not get to touch a single hair on Ren Xiaoyun, forced to take it back and jumped 9 feet away. He then noticed his dragon scale arms were dripping blood, the armor ruined. That was just one hit. Everyone was in shock at the turn of events. Then came a cold face that stood next to Ren Xiaoyun. Those dead eyes were devoid of joy or sadness, staring at Elder Yuan. Chapter 785, Demon Without His Path. Chapter 785, Demon Without His Path. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yuan Xingang, it's been a while. So you came as well, Xiao Yunshan. Elder Yuan and Xiao Yunshan stared at each other, like old friends that hadn't seen each other in ages, but it also felt like a meeting of strangers from how cold the reception was. Ren Xiaoyun was overjoyed. High Venerable, you came just in time. This old man is in the Soul Harmony stage and harder to fight than we thought. Soul Harmony stage, is it? Xiao Yunshan rose an eyebrow. Yuan Xingang, you surprise me again. With your aptitude, I thought that ethereal stage would be the end for you. It's truly amazing you reached soul harmony stage. You're a miracle worker. Elder Yuan shook his head. There's nothing miraculous about it, just perseverance. All I had was endless focus to reach my goals. Yeah, but even so, you've opened my eyes. Xiao Yunshan nodded. Elder Yuan shook his head and sighed. I fear this would be the last time. Have you come to kill me? No, I only heard of the sect plan and knew you would pass away and came to see you one last time. Xiao Yunshan looked at the pale Ren Xiaoyun then said, but by the looks of it, I'll have to intervene. Yuan Xinggang, we both know each other well. The vow we made in a fit of fury is still fresh in my mind. You should know my determination. Elder Yuan nodded. All that matters is the sect. Since High Venerable decided to take my life, as its High Venerable, you must carry it out. I understand and always have. Then words are unnecessary. Our 102nd fight will also be the last. Xiao Yunshan made a flourishing gesture as he said, let us put a final end to our friendship. Elder Yuan squinted and nodded, I shall show you what I gained these years. Ha ha ha, right back at you. You won't touch a single hair on me. We'll see. Elder Yuan unleashed his power, making earthly scales cover his entire body. He went all out from the start. Even Ren Xiaoyun found it hard to breathe. He was shocked by the power he had despite being a fresh soul harmony cultivator. This coot is strong. Xiao Yunshan's eyes shook. I knew you won't let me down. Then I should get to it as well and give you a proper parting. Xiao Yunshan showed his power as well, releasing biting winds. He drew out 2 fingers and the sharpness his body had was enough to cut the world heaven trailing sword, the invincible. None could stand up to that sword. This was his power, as the best of the one sword 5 dragons. Elder Yuan's eyes shook and sighed, heaven trailing sword indeed. He knew what would come next, but his determination was firm. He shouted and charged with a draconic roar. Immense power exploded and ruining the room. Xiao Yunshan charged as well, meeting him halfway. The two crossed each other then stopped. There was no boom and no sign anything happened, yet the outcome was already obvious, but the speed was too fast for any to see. Elder Yuan fell to one knee as blood seeped from his mouth, but his face was still the same, having known how it would end behind him. Xiao Yunshan stood there on his 2 feet, with a little blood on his fingers from Elder Yuan. Lost in the end. Elder Yuan's eyes grew hazy. You still won, just like every other fight we had. Xiao Yunshan remained silent, his face calm. Ren Xiaoyun was overjoyed. High Venerable was so powerful to defeat such a thorn so easily. He really was the heaven trailing sword. Xie Wuer was cackling. Ha ha ha, you're finally done for, old man? Humph, with heaven trailing sect helping me, none can touch me. Elder Yuan frowned and his weak body stood straight, his fist clenched. Xie Wuer, even if I die today, I will take you down with me. Gnashing his teeth, Elder Yuan exploded with power as he shot for Xie Wuer with a palm. Xie Wuer panicked. He was trapped by the Impermanence 5 and could not even defend himself. Ren Xiaoyun shouted, High Venerable, don't let him kill sect leader Xie or High Venerable will suffer. Elder Yuan was about to strike Xie Wuer, but then he spat blood as he slumped to the ground behind him. Xiao Yunshan's 2 fingers released a sharp glow with a cold face. High Venerable. Impermanence 5 cried out. Just then, a boom came and the vicissitude domain crumbled with the 5 elders blown away. Ren Xiaoyun laughed and flicked his fist covered in yuan qi as he sneered at them. He turned a smile to Xie Wuyue, Sect Leader Xie, you're alright? Thank you, Sect Leader Ren, I am. Cupping his hands, Xie Wuyue sighed then mocked Elder Yuan, High Venerable, sorry to disappoint, but you never got to kill me. From now on, Demon Scheming Sect is mine. No matter who it is that tries to fight me, he will die, even you. Xie Wuyue raised his hand and a black claw formed and was sent towards the defenseless Impermanence 5. Coughing blood, Impermanence 5 lost their lives, leaving only Elder Shi's last words, High Venerable, us brothers will go on ahead. Plop tilde. Their bodies fell to the ground with a resounding sound. High Venerable heard it, yet his face remained flat. He forced himself to sit, showing a happy smile. Xiao Yunshan, after not having seen for so long, allow me to tell you something. I have another disciple, a true genius. The day will come that he would surpass all other geniuses. I am a waste, but I have a true genius disciple. Smart, filial, reasonable and dignified. Elder Yuan's eyes grew moist, feeling he would not see his disciple again. But he did not get to finish as he turned to Xie Wuyue and gnashed his teeth in anger. Xie Wuyue, you're only a demon without his path. Demon scheming sect will one day be condemned under you. Shut it, geezer. Demon scheming sect is now a middle three sect, under my rule. Zhuo Fan has nothing to do with it. He's nothing but a pawn of mine. Only I can take demon scheming sect to the top. Why won't you believe me? Xie Wuyue was angry, shaking Elder Yuan's shoulders and shouting at him, but Elder Yuan could no longer hear as blood fell from his mouth, his eyes still smiling. Elder Yuan had passed away. Looking at Elder Yuan's body, Xiao Yunshan turned to Xiao Yunshan's crazed look and sighed. Yuan Xinggang, how sad you left nothing behind you. He suddenly clutched his belly and spat blood. High Venerable, what's wrong? Ren Xiaoyun cried. Xiao Yunshan waved him off and looked at Elder Yuan with laughter. Yuan Xinggang, it's almost been 1,000 years and 101 fights, but this time, I had lost to you. I take it back. You're not useless, but a true genius in the Western lands, a genius worthy of entering Double Dragon Manor. Overcome with sadness, Xiao Yunshan sighed and left. Ren Xiaoyun saw Xie Wuyue was still lost in his insanity and figured the matter was done, ignoring him and going after High Venerable. Meanwhile, the slaughter outside went on and on, endlessly. Chapter 786, Master and Disciple. Chapter 786, Master and Disciple. Proofreader, Papatonks. In the middle of the night, a blaze reached the heavens coming out of the main hall. Xiao Yunshan observed the hellish scenery around, accompanied by an endless strings of wails and cries of agony. His heart sighed with disappointment. Ren Xiaoyun came from behind to stand next to him. He bowed. High Venerable, is it possible that you and demon scheming sect's High Venerable were friends? Why would you care so much that he died? If you really were friends, why kill him? Ren Xiaoyun finished his thought then frowned. We're not friends, but the opposite, bitter rivals. Rivals? Yes, rivals that have been fighting for 1,000 years. Xiao Yunshan sighed, looking at the sky as he recalled those times. When Heaven Trailing Sect and Demon Scheming Sect sent their disciples to compete, I was the best then and had defeated everyone. Even elites would quiver at the mere whisper of my name. In the arena, most of them would lose before they even struck. While I was filled with vigor and power, the Demon Scheming Sect's team was like a bunch of rats. But then he came. Demon Scheming Sect's High Venerable? But he was no venerable then, not even a normal disciple, just a laborer. Xiao Yunshan smiled. One laborer actually dared to challenge me. Like anyone else in my position, I looked down on him and mocked him. Only to find out at the end how much trouble he was. Not even 20 years passed and he came challenging me again. I asked him what a laborer was trying to do, while he answered that he would definitely revitalize his sect and keep surpassing his limits. I laughed in his face, saying that I was far beyond his limit and he will never reach me. But he was stubborn regardless, fighting me again and again. I first found him amusing, so I humored him since he was easy to beat. But then I felt threatened. This kid, this laborer of poor constitution, was gaining on me one step at a time. I did not accept it and lashed out, telling him he was useless, that he couldn't touch a hair on me. In the end, he still came to fight me. I sometimes wanted to kill him. He sensed it as well and urged me, in fact. As if by killing him I showed that I was scared of him. Ha ha ha, how was he worth it? But what came next proved I was indeed afraid he would overtake me. A laborer actually forced me to get serious about training, a genius like me, to reaffirm my position. Sounds like a really bad joke. But that's how it was. This is how we became bitter rivals over time. Xiao Yunshan gave a sad smile. Our fights soon evolved to being a comparison of our sects. Who will be the first to take their sect higher? He's been High Venerable of the Demon Scheming Sect for years and years, but our fights never stopped. I've gotten used to them over the years. Now that he's suddenly gone, I do feel a sense of loss and loneliness. Now there's no one to match my strength. Oh, I see. I didn't think Demon Scheming Sect's High Venerable would have such a story. Truly inspiring. Ren Xiaoyun nodded. Xiao Yunshan sighed. he was amazing, but failed in the end. For wealth and fame, he tore up his sect. Xie Wuyue, with all his skills, is nothing more than a common man that won't amount to anything. Yes, only with him as sect leader can we rest easy, ha ha ha. Ren Xiaoyun laughed. Xiao Yunshan nodded. As their adversary, the weaker they are the better. After this, Venerable Shi will have Xie Wuyue's weakness and will hardly be neutral. Middle 3 sect. Ha ha ha, it's way too soon for them. A shame for all the effort Yuan Xingang put in. Is High Venerable regretful? No. Xiao Yunshan shook his head. I did not want him to die, but for the sect's good, I had to step in and do what needed to be done. He would have done the same. This was a kind of promise between us. He understood this the best. Ren Xiaoyun sighed. These two high venerables were men among men, looking at the bigger picture and in impressive manner, becoming rivals. It would have been a touching story in times of peace, but when the sect's interests were involved, one of them would end up as a sacrifice. Demon Scheming Sect's High Venerable did not die, in fact, from Xiao Yunshan, but by Xie Wuyue, his own disciple. The old man said something about having another disciple. He spoke with pride about him. Who is he? I'm interested to meet him. Xiao Yunshan asked. Ren Xiaoyun shook his head, bowing. High Venerable, the disciple he's talking about must be Zhuo Fan, who took Double Dragon Gathering by storm. Only, you might not see him again. Why? I heard Xie Wuyue saying that the Universal Righteous Sect went after him. Fine, you don't have to say it. Xiao Yunshan sighed. Since men from the superior 3 sects came forward, he has no chance. What a shame, I really wanted to see his prized disciple. Xiao Yunshan vanished from his spot, leaving Ren Xiaoyun standing there. Meanwhile, deep in a forest, Gui Hu, Qi Changlong, Yue, Kuei Lang and other disciples all fell limp on the ground and glaring at the person in front. Lu Xie, you poisoned us? Yep, how else would your Yuan Qi get sealed? Ha ha ha. Snickering, Lu Xie mocked them as 2 inner ethereal stage elders came along clenching his fists. Qi Changlong shouted, Lu Xie, why would you do this? You dare attack us? High Venerable will soon find out and there's no escape for you. Bai Lian threatened. The 3 laughed. High Venerable? They can hardly defend themselves and you expect them to save you? Don't you see the chaos and smoke coming from the mountain? Humph, the labor office is finished. What are you talking about? Gui Hu shouted. Lu Xie sneered, you'll soon be dead anyway, so I might as well explain. In fact, my master and I have planned in detail just for today. The tallest tree catches the most wind. Weren't you showing off with Zhuo Fan? At the Double Dragon Gathering, you've been looking good, but that meant you earned many enemies as well. I followed Master's instructions and made contact with all the ones that hated Zhuo Fan. All for today. I bet the Universal Righteous Sect must have already gone for Zhuo Fan. Heaven Trailing Sect and Mystical Heaven Sect worked with us to destroy the Labor Office, Zhuo Fan's factions, to avoid any mishap. Such a shame the Beast Taming Sect team at the Double Dragon Gathering was destroyed, or I bet I'd get them on board too. Well, not that it mattered, ha ha ha. You went to get other sects involved. Qi Changlong roared, Double Dragon Manor will interfere. Lu Xie waved his hand in derision, you think we didn't know about it? Since you guys came up with an excuse to attack Mystical Heaven Sect, why couldn't we as well? Humph, Zhuo Fan has only been a sect leader for just 1 day. Who'd recognize that? With Heaven Trailing Sect and Mystical Heaven Sect helping us stem the chaos in Demon Scheming Sect, Xie Wuyue would be back as sect leader, and that made you with Zhuo Fan as traitors. How's that for logic? We're in the right here, ha ha ha. They all gnashed their teeth in hatred. They knew as well that Double Dragon Manor would not interfere in a sect's inner conflict. Also, Master had set this plan for a long time, suffering in silence. He figured that Zhuo Fan and Xie Wuyue would at some point butt heads, just as expected. Well, isn't my master much more cunning than Zhuo Fan? Lu Xie raised a taunting eyebrow and raised his fist with Yuan Qi. Qi Changlong, I told you, the best disciple in the sect will be me in the end. With you finished, all problems are solved. Bang tilde. He didn't get to finish as 3 rays of red erupted. Lu Xie shook and looked down at the huge hole in his chest. Looking around, he saw the elders looking the same. Only then he noticed a familiar figure. Why you? Grand Elder, why? Lucia, you talk too much, or I'd have struck faster. Haha, still green in the end. Grand Elder smirked and made a sign. A falcon 100 meters big came out and struck the two bodies on the ground, ripping their souls apart. Next, the falcon grabbed the weakened Lucia, and he cried, "Wait, aren't you part of the inner sect?" "Why? Yes, but," Grand Elder's eyes flashed and roared, "I'm Gui, who's master first and foremost." Chapter 787, Hounded. Chapter 787, Hounded. Proofreader. Papatonks. Shriek Tilda. With a sharp cry, the falcon swooped in on Lucia. He got so scared he wanted to run right away, but that was impossible with his wounded body. To fight back was an even worse decision with his meager power, so he resorted to begging. "Wait, Grand Elder, I know Gui, who is your disciple, and never planned on harming him." "You take me for a 3-year-old? Grand Elder mocked. "Gui, who has a good body, and for you to become the best in the sect, you'll have to go through him. I know perfectly well how Venerable Shur and the inner sect operates. And besides, you might not harm Gui, who because of me, but what of Siawuyue? Humph, I know his nasty temper the most. He will leave nothing to chance, spare no one. With Gui, who being part of Labor Office, he won't be left alive. It's safer if I just take him away." Grand Elder's eyes flashed, he made a sign, and the falcon's talons took on a sharp glint. It passed through Lucia's body and came out holding a green spider in its claws. "Grand Elder, don't. Please, let me go," Lucia cried out in panic. He finished his pleading with a mournful cry, the spider torn apart in the falcon's claws. Lucia's eyes became empty and he plopped on the ground. Grand Elder sneered, "Didn't I tell you? Don't take me for a 3-year-old. Was I supposed to let you live so you can come back for revenge? Humph." Grand Elder hastened over to Gui, who and showed a vial. He took out recovery pills and shared them with the disciples. "This is the antidote, take it and you'll be fine." Grand Elder spoke calmly. None hesitated and ate it in 15 minutes. They all could move again. Chi Changlong asked, "Grand Elder, what's going on?" Lucia said, "High Venerable wanted us here for special training but then poisoned us as we heard people dying behind us." "Did they really ask outsiders to bring enemies here?" "What about High Venerable?" "All he said was true." Grand Elder sighed. Venerable Shah planned ahead, and even brought Heaven Trailing Sect's expert. "I fear not even High Venerable can hold on." Chi Changlong frowned and clenched his fists in hatred. "I never thought that Venerable Shah would sell the sect for power. And that Siawuyue, he was the previous sect leader, is so vile to join as well. This is called lust for power. If Siawuyue hadn't joined, Venerable Shah would have never do this." Grand Elder sighed. Bai Lian muttered, "Grand Elder, aren't you with them? Since you did this for Gui, who, why then didn't you notify High Venerable beforehand?" "Bai Lian, are you saying Master sold out his sect?" Gui, who glared at her, "Master just saved our lives." Bai Lian only stared at Grand Elder, wanting an explanation. Grand Elder looked hurt, nodding, "Yes, I am an inner sect elder, with Venerable Shah. But we have different goals. Venerable Shah wants power in the sect and I want more resources to train my disciple. In any inner conflicts I stood by his side, but this time he sold out the sect and I could no longer do this." However, Venerable Shah was very cautious. When dealing with the two sects to attack us, he not once mentioned anything to any of us in the inner sect. All was done by him and Lucia. When we found out, it was already too late. I figured that when Siawuyue regained his seat, he will cull all those that stood with Zhuofan. Gui, who might not escape, so I turned on them. You can believe what you want, but all I've done is for my disciple. Master. Gui, who was touched to tears. The others nodded, believing him for now. That was because they did not find any other reason why he'd save them. He only did it to save Gui, who, and that meant saving them as well, his friends. The more people, the more they could correlate and the more the chances of Gui, who to live. This meant saving him and saving them. "Come with me, I'll sneak you out of the sect. We're on the same team now. To survive Siawuyue's pursuit, we must work together." Grand Elder coughed and his face grew hard. Chi Changlong flicked his sleeve, his eyes filled with fire. "No, my grandfather and the others. Your own life is at stake and you have time to worry about others." Grand Elder cut him off with a yell. "Heaven Trailing Sect and Mystical Heaven Sect have the place surrounded. But your grandfathers aren't weak either. Maybe they can get out. But if you go back now, they will have to look after you and you'll drag them down. I think that saving yourselves is the best way for you to help them. Chi Changlong's mouth shook and his shoulders slumped powerlessly. Bai Lian understood his feelings and lowered her head. The rest bit their lip, feeling hatred at being powerless. Grand Elder said, "If you got that settled, let's go. Let's go even if you're unconvinced. Staying here won't help anyone." Grand Elder took the lead, putting the roaring fire behind him. Grand Elder was right. All they could do with their meager strength was to bury their hatred deep within. They would cull these traitorous spawns in the future. Meanwhile, 10 miles off Demon Scheming Sect, in a dark corner of a forest, the three fiends panted after their run. Seeing no one was behind them, they stopped to catch their breath. Curses. Just how in the hell did the sect fall so fast? Fiend Yang looked at the others in disbelief. They shook their heads. Fiend Yang frowned, looking behind him in pain, after living there for centuries, to see it gone like that. Shit, who did this? The 9 sects of Western lands. I'm going straight to Double Dragon Manor. This revenge I must have. Fiend Yang, something's wrong about this. Fiend Yin said, unless there's an involvement outside of Western lands, there's no way they would not listen to Double Dragon Manor's rules. Fiend Yang shouted, you mean this was done by someone from other lands? Bullshit. A shout came followed by a palm attack on his back. Startled, Fiend Yang struck back, enemy attack. Bam! The two palm met and Fiend Yang's fat body stood in his pot while the attacker was flung back and spat blood. Isn't he weak? Startled, Fiend Yang blinked his eyes wide and laughed, sending someone so weak after us? They must want us to take revenge and kill them. I see. If I wasn't hurt, a fatty like you wouldn't have survived my palm. The man's white hair was in disarray, covering his face, yet easily recognized through his voice. The fiends were startled. They cried, Venerable Bai, why did you ambush me? Did you bring enemies over? Now you want to kill me? Stop playing the victim when you already know who did this. Venerable Bai roared and gnashed his teeth at them. The trio was perplexed. Venerable Bai mocked, a bunch of fakers all of you. You and him have been pals for so long, yet you don't know his plan? If I had known, I'd killed him when we had the chance and pushed Stewardshire up. Venerable Bai was filled with regret. Who the hell are you talking about? He's talking about me, Demon Scheming Sect's true sect leader. A cold voice came as Xie Wuyue led a dozen ethereal stage experts over. Bullshit, you're no sect leader, not after you brought enemies and killed your fellow sect members. Fiend Yang shouted as he exploded in power. Xie Wuyue shook and roared, even you betray me? Xie Wuyue charged. Fiend Yang's heart shook, but he gritted his teeth and made a sign. A yellow fireball appeared and smashed for Xie Wuyue. Meteor. Humph, just an earthen soul. It's truly a fit for a fatty, all empty inside and useless. Xie Wuyue mocked. With a draconic roar, a black flood dragon came out from Xie Wuyue. It flicked its tail and struck the fireball. When the fireball faded and returned to Fiend Yang, he shook and spat blood. Being hurt so easily it showed the gap between them. Die, fatty. Xie Wuyue clawed at his chest with all his bloodlust. Flood dragon claw. The other two fiends cried out, never imagining Xie Wuyue would be so ruthless as to kill Fiend Yang, his friend for centuries. But not even they could stop Xie Wuyue. They unleashed their souls to block, but the flood dragon's tail whipped them away and sending them coughing blood. SSS tilde. Its sharp claws came like lightning on Fiend Yang. Xie Wuyue grinned cruelly. Fiend Yang sighed and shook his head with closed eyes. I have been overconfident when I never managed to beat you once. If I knew it would come to this, I would have never saved you. All Bai was right, seizing your power was better than letting the sect fall like this. Ooh. Xie Wuyue's claw halted before his chest. Xie Wuyue remained like this, then took back his attack and simply kicked Fiend Yang arg. With a wail, Fiend Yang was sent a dozen meters away and forced to spit blood, with teeth in it. My tooth. Fiend Yang's mouth shook and shrieked, damn you Xie Wuyue, kill me if you want to, but don't torture me like this. At least on account of me saving you back then. Fatty Yang. The shout startled Fiend Yang. He looked up to see Xie Wuyue's cold face. Xie Wuyue turned to the other fiends and sighed, and you too, I'll let you off today, but the next time I see you, all ties are broken. Then I'll treat you like the traitors you are, sparing none. Siawua flicked his sleeve and ripped it off to prove his decision. He turned around and led his men away. Only the three of them shook and looked at the sleeve on the ground with a sigh. From now on, they and Siawua were no longer brothers. Venerable Bai took a deep breath and made a heavy bow. Forgive me, Venerables, I misunderstood you. We're on the same side. The trio shared a bitter smile. Yeah, we're no longer with Siawua from here on out. They took the wounded Venerable Bai and sped away, not wanting any more pursuits. Siawua said that he would kill them if he met them again, so the farther they went the better. At the same time, other survivors were frantically fleeing for their lives from Siawua's men. Chapter 789, Support. Chapter 789, Support. Proofreader, Papatonks. Grandfather. In the Black Forest, the fiends were helping Venerable Bai run away under the pale moonlight. Suddenly, a cry got them all to stop and look to see Bai Lian coming over with others. Venerable Bai was relieved to see his granddaughter. Liana, thank God you escaped. All Bai, we just met with these kids. How are you together? Venerable Chi came out of nowhere and looked at the fiends. Understanding his wariness, Venerable Bai explained what happened, making him let go of all suspicion and treat the fiends as fellow people in need. They all talked about what they knew and sighed at the whole story. I never knew Venerable Sha was such a schemer. After Steward Zhuo. We're just too careless. Because the inner sect calmed down, we thought they gave up, but they had us in the end. Venerable Chi growled in anger. Venerable Bai frowned. High Venerable and sect leader Zhuo might be dead by now. Stragglers like us are barely numbering 50. Now that we have Siawua hunting us, where are we to go? In any case, Western Lands territories had already been fixed. No matter where we go, we'll either be hunted or cast out. We have no choice but to flee Western Lands and think of another place. Grand Elder shook his head. You think it's that easy? Thousands upon thousands of miles around us belong to the Empire's three guardian sect. Our only way is to go through Tianyu and then Chuanrong. But there's the beast-taming sect there and the Empire's three guardian sects in Tianyu. Tianyu? Yua lit up and shouted, isn't Master's clan Tianyu's number one? When we attacked Mystical Heaven sect, we fought side by side. Now that we're in danger, they have to help us. Well. Grand Elder frowned and hesitated. Forget it, mortal clans are cold. They might look after us if sect leader Zhuo had been around, but with him gone, they would never accept us. Maybe they would sell us out the minute we meet, handing us over to Siawua. No way. I've met their clan head and he's a very upright and loyal man. Ha ha ha, girl, you're too young. How can there be a loyal man in the world? Everyone only looks after themselves. Moreover, sect leader Zhuo is a demonic cultivator. With his shrewdness, his clan must be devious as well. Why would they get on the Empire's three guardian sects' bad side just for a bunch of stragglers? Grand Elder shook his head. The way I see it, we're better off not entrusting our fate to others. The others nodded as well. Only Yua pouted and grumbled. She had been in dire straits with them and saw Luo Yunhai to be trustworthy. Venerable Bai's eyes lit up. Maybe we should give Tianyu a try. Hey! The others turned to him. Venerable Qi frowned. Tianyu is part of the three sects' territory. It's too dangerous with so many ears about. It's because of that it's safe. Grinning, Venerable Bai was sure of it. Think about it. Siawua would never think we'd lay low under his nose, right in Tianyu. He'll be sending his men anywhere else. So as long as we're fast enough, we'll be out of it before they find this out and escape danger. Startled, the others gave a thumbs up and so, the group planned on using Tianyu's vast area to leave Western Lands for a new place to live. 3 months later, in a thick forest, gasps were heard as dozens of men passed through. In this time, the group had split up to lure their pursuers away, then take the long way around to Tianyu and escape. Are we all here? Venerable Bai shouted. They all nodded. Venerable Bai, everyone is accounted for. Then let's pass through Tianyu and reach Chuanrong soon. Venerable Bai nodded and took the lead. They had yet to go far before a cackle reached their ears. A bunch of oldies think they can live after what they did in Mystical Heaven sect. Whoosh tilde. Figures had the group surrounded as 100 experts in the ethereal stage showed their power. The group was mixed, and Venerable Bai saw among them people from Heaven Trailing sect, and a few from Mystical Heaven sect and Demon Scheming sect. Curses. There's so many of them. If it were just mystical heaven sect and demon scheming sect, we might have fought our way out of this mess, but there's heaven trailing sect as well. There was no way these few men could handle so many experts. Venerable Bai frowned and gnashed his teeth. Ha ha ha, Venerable Bai, you've been in the demon scheming sect for a while and should know Venerable Sh's cunning. You think he couldn't figure out your plan? The safest place is the most dangerous, ha ha ha. You sure worked hard to run us around in circles, but too bad none of us fell for it. An elder in black came out and mocked Venerable Bai. Knew he was an inner elder and was filled with regret. They had been going around all these days only to end up playing in their hands. Venerable Bai looked at Venerable Chi, who said, "All Bai, let's fight to the last." Fight? You can't do anything as you are. Grinning, the elder in black sneered, ever since you decided on Tianyu, everything else was but a string of mistakes that settled your fate. They were outraged but helpless. This decision had indeed led them to a dead end, from which none could escape. But then a voice filled with disdain came from the forest. A mistake? Ha ha ha, that's what you've done. Coming to Tianyu was the right choice. What? The elder in black shook and looked around. Who's there? Their support. A couple dozen people, ethereal stage experts, with 5 being above the 5th layer, showed up. Yue cried in joy, "Elder Li, is it really you?" Snickering, Li Jingtian laughed, "We came to help you, now attack together." Sure. Venerable Bai was excited, never imagining their ally would come to help in this dire time of need. The Luo clan was a godsend. Venerable Bai's group unleashed their power and charged while Li Jingtian's side attacked from the outside. In a blink of an eye, the hunter became the hunted, thrown into chaos. The Black Elder cried out, "Who are you to stop Tianyu's 3 guardian sects?" Ha ha ha, I don't know much about 3 sects, just that you're blocking our guest. Elder Li laughed and slapped the man. Replied with a palm attack. Bam. Li Jingtian was both powerful and ferocious, making the demon scheming sect elder spew blood and fall back. The others were unsettled at this event. With the Luo clan's 5 experts in the lead, they were charging like a relentless force. The pursuers of Venerable Bai had no chance whatsoever. They might be 100, but the Luo clan and Venerable Bai joining forces only numbered around 60 while having a different level of quality, not lacking in power at all. No matter how many they were, when morale fell, they would only retreat. Finally, the pursuers were now caught in the middle, having lost their savagery, forced to scurry around and flee. Even as they did so, they could not understand why they were routed. Despite having more people on a far peak, a man and a woman stood, Luo clan's Shadow Corps leader, Lei Yuting, and commander of Luo clan's forces, Yu Ming. Seeing the fight was settled, Lei Yuting nodded, "It's just like you said. The elders were enough to defeat them all. In a meeting of rivals, the ferocious one has the upper hand." Yu Ming's eyes flashed. Sometimes, a fight can be as brief as a thought, to fight or not to fight. This is enough to settle it. The elders had struck hard from the start, winning with merely 20 people. All right, our rescue mission is over. Now it's up to Lung Wuchang's plan. Yu Ming left and Lei Yuting watched him go with a smile before following. Not far, in a city, Lung Wuchang and Luo Yunhai were enjoying a wee cup of tea. Chapter 790, The 3 Sages Act. Chapter 790, The 3 Sages Act. Proofreader, Papatonks. Clan head, you don't look the least bit nervous. Sitting refined in the lounge, Lung Wuchang sipped on his tea while giving Luo Yunhai a smile. Luo Yunhai was unfazed. With Sir Lung so certain in his plan, then all must be assured. How would worry help at this point? Ha ha ha, clan head, you hold me in such high regard and trust. Touched, Lung Wuchang smiled. Over the years, Luo Yunhai had shown complete trust in his aides, making these old coots feel their efforts being rewarded and being loyal in return. Luo Yunhai did not speak, only smiled. Later, footsteps were heard as Li Jingtian's booming voice echoed, "Clan head, we have brought them. Show them in." Luo Yunhai stood up and shouted in joy. Lung Wuchang smiled and stood as well. The door was opened and Li Jingtian led Venerable Bai's group to sit in the lounge. Seeing Luo Yunhai, they all showed their thanks. "Thank you, Luo clan head, for the timely rescue. Please don't mind it, take a seat." Luo Yunhai glossed over. The Luo clan had been brought up by Brother Zhuo alone. As you are his trusted aides, then we are all on the same side. Finding out that you're in peril, It's only my duty to come help. We have fought shoulder to shoulder after all, ha ha ha. Luo Yunhai's bright laughter entered their ears and made them lower their heads. They were still doubtful the Luo clan was to be trusted, yet the clan head himself proved that loyalty hadn't yet died in the world. Just because of their connection with Zhuo Fan, the clan head risked his men to save them. This action of the Luo clan had painted a target on them, becoming an enemy of the three sects. They all felt ashamed, with Venerable by taking a step forward and making a deep bow. Luo clan head, we've dragged you into this. You could have stayed outside of the three sects' troubles, but now. Elder Bai, it's fine. Since someone wants to take out Brother Zhuo, we, the Luo clan, are already involved. Luo Yunhai's eyes flashed, his face hard. When I became clan head, I vowed that Brother Zhuo's enemies are Luo clan's enemies. No matter who it is, or how many, the Luo clan will have Brother Zhuo's back all the way. Shaking, they all were impressed by Luo Yunhai's valor. Just what kind of friendship could he have to give everything for one man, even his whole clan? No wonder Steward Zhuo wanted to give up being sect leader. This man was worth following. Venerable Bai and the others admired him. Not even in their long years in the demon scheming sect had they seen such a worthy man to follow. The demon scheming sect only cared about self-interest, while the Luo clan was a united group. Now they understood why Zhuo Fan was so eager to get back. Boom tilde. Explosions came, followed by the world shaking around them. With the lounge about to collapse, the men panicked and Luo Yunhai frowned. He turned to Leng Wuchang with a questioning look. Leng Wuchang smiled. Ha ha ha, easy now. They're but the pursuers attacking the defensive array. Pursuers? Those 100 ethereal stage experts? Startled, Venerable Qi cried, that's bad. An average array can't hold back so many ethereal stage expert. The others grew tense and were ready to fight at any moment. Leng Wuchang and Luo Yunhai shared a look and laughed. It's fine. I already surmised you'd want to escape Western lands through Tianyu. That's why 3 months earlier I had men set up 18 arrays all above 7th grade. Also, they all use sacred stones. And since the elders are overlooking it, those 100 thugs can't put a dent in it. Thugs? Them? Shocked, they all were flabbergasted. Who's he to call 100 ethereal stage experts thugs? Isn't he too cocky? He's only in the radiant stage too. Maybe he's like High Venerable, hiding his power behind lower cultivation. They then looked behind to see Li Jingtian gone. Sir, may I ask? Venerable Bai bowed. Leng Wuchang cupped his hands. I am Leng Wuchang of Tianyu. What? You're unwanted contriver, one of the 3 sages? Venerable Bai and the others were stunned. Sir's reputation precedes you. Leng Wuchang waved his hand. Please, as a cultivator, I am nothing to you. But as a supervisor, with enough pawns in my hand, I can beat any one of you. Indeed, Sir's genius has long since been known. I never imagined you'd stay in the Luo clan. We're shocked. Venerable Bai and the others nodded. They knew that while Leng Wuchang wasn't much in terms of cultivation, but as a supervisor of the clan, he had countless people he could direct and multiply their effective power in the cultivating world, especially in the Western lands. There were hardly many large-scale conflicts where his advantage could be used. But now, since they were hunted by 3 sects, they needed a sharp mind like Leng Wuchang more than anything. Understanding their intent, Leng Wuchang smiled. From the report Yu Ming sent, these people fled at the first sign of battle. No one can focus their power and thus shows they are headless. They look to be made up of ethereal stage experts, but as a whole they're nothing but thugs. The best way to deal with them is in 3 clashes. First is an all-out attack, second will be their crushed spirits, and third comes their feebleness. Afterward, they would scurry away. That's why you need not worry. They'll soon be running back home. Sir Leng, the Yu Ming you're talking about, is he perhaps insidious demon Yu Gichi's disciple? Leng Wuchang nodded. You heard of him too? Yu Gichi wanted to join the demon scheming sect to get Hell Valley an ally, but his aptitude was poor and he was disregarded. But then he became one of Tianyu's 3 sages, earning his name. To gain fame with a shrewd mind is much harder. I never thought his disciple would be with the Luo clan. No wonder the Luo clan evolved so much with 2 sages. Venerable Bai admired and the others echoed him. Leng Wuchang and Luo Yunhai shared a smile. 15 minutes later, the booming stopped and Yu Ming came in with the elders. Leng Wuchang asked, is it over? Didn't I have you strike them as they fell back to push them further? No point. Yu Ming shrugged. You wanted to exhaust them completely and buy time when calling for help for Zhuge, but I have convinced them to leave. They won't be back for a while. It all worked out the same. Leng Wuchang smiled, convinced. Yes. Their group consisted of 65 from Heaven Trailing Sect, 26 from Demon Scheming Sect and 11 from Mystical Heaven Sect. We held complete advantage over the fight and could finish them off without a problem, but that would ruin your plan, right? Ha ha ha. Yu Ming sat down, so I took it upon myself to kill the 26 from Demon Scheming Sect, heavily wound the 11 from Mystical Heaven Sect, and as for Heaven Trailing Sects, I told them I received news that we and Heaven Trailing Sect had made peace. I had them go back to their sect leader and ask him themselves. Leng Wuchang raised an eyebrow. News? Why haven't I heard of it? It should come at some point, or you wouldn't have let me fight with Heaven Trailing Sect's safety in mind. You trust him that much? As the previous Prime Minister of the Empire, foreign affairs were his strongest suit. Grinning, Yu Ming ignored the extra people around and dangled one leg over the other after taking his teacup. Leng Wuchang laughed. True, the old guy has that for him. Sir Leng, who are you talking about? Luo Yunhai was confused. Leng Wuchang's eyes flashed as he bowed. Clan head, that old guy Zhuge Changfeng had sent a message 2 months ago, saying that he'll return from visiting other nations. Steward Zhuge is coming back. Luo Yunhai cried. Leng Wuchang smiled. I have informed him of our situation and of my plan and proposed that he not return yet, but make a trip to Heaven Trailing Sect. Heaven Trailing Sect? The rest went bug-eyed. Venerable Bai was shocked. Leng Wuchang smiled. Yes, that sect. In fact, the Luo clan has a third sage as well. With his silver tongue, your life should be guaranteed. Venerable Bai blinked in disbelief. I mean that with all 3 sages from Tianyu acting up, we'll turn your situation around and get the pursuit off you. Or if we had let clan head go ahead with the whole clan and be ruled by emotions, we'd never have agreed to save you so easily. Leng Wuchang shook his head. Chapter 791, Distant Allies, Close Enemies. Chapter 791, Distant Allies, Close Enemies. Proofreader, Papatonks. Tap, tap. In a dusky hall, 2 rows of faint candlelights burned gently. The only sound was the rhythmic steps of a single person sitting on the guest chair. An aged man was sipping on his tea as the footsteps came. He placed the cup down on the table and waited. The Grand Steward of the best clan in Tianyu, Zhuge Changfeng, ha ha ha. Following the bright laughter, a sturdy middle-aged man came out from the shadows and into the light, taking the seat of honor. Heaven Trailing Sect's sect leader Ren Xiaoyun, yesterday Tianyu Empire's prime minister, and now Luo clan's first steward. The title might have changed, but the power is no less than that of a prime minister. Zhuge Changfeng, what are you doing here instead of minding Tianyu's affairs? Zhuge Changfeng stood up and made a light bow. Sect leader Ren, Heaven Trailing Sect is the head of the Tenayu's 3 guardian sects, and I am ashamed to say that in all my decades as prime minister and now steward of Luo clan, I have failed in paying my respects to your glorious sect. Secular clans and sects hardly ever meet. No apology needed. Ren Xiaoyun waved his hand. I wonder what brought on this visit from miles away. Zhuge Changfeng smiled and bowed again. I shall be frank, sect leader. I have come with a defined purpose in mind. I am before sect leader with a request. What is it? Ren Xiaoyun raised an eyebrow. Zhuge Changfeng's eyes flashed. I hope that sect leader Ren may be willing to go easy on the demon scheming sect traitors. Oh. Ren Xiaoyun stared hard into Zhuge Changfeng's tranquil gaze, then mocked. You're from Tianyu but nonetheless informed. You heard of Western Land's 9 sects' affairs quite fast. But why do you want to save them? Is it for your previous steward, Zhuofan? Ren Xiaoyun's tone dropped and became chilling. 1 word out of line and Zhuge Changfeng would find himself gone from this world. Zhuge Changfeng smiled still and nodded, in a way, but not fully. How so? Of course there's the respect and gratitude towards Steward Zhuo's former efforts. Even if strays, they were once under Steward Zhuo's wing and we have to lend a hand, lest we'd be taken as ingrates. Sir must know by now of our young clan head's personality, holding loyalty above all else. By not doing this now, it will harm his name. Squinting, Ren Xiaoyun sneered, "So what you're telling me is that the Luo clan is helping the traitors for their reputation?" Ren Xiaoyun's hand flicked and bloodthirst flickered in his eyes. "Not entirely, since there's still respect for the previous steward Shuo, even if not enough to warrant the destruction of the clan. That's why it's most out of reputation. The world is filled with people striving for fame, and our clan head is no exception." Zhuge Changfeng chuckled and sighed. Over the years, Tianyu has flourished and, in turn, filled the three sects' coffers, with the tribute growing yearly. Sect leader Ren is sure to know this. Why? All because of the Luo alliance, drawing in dozens of clans, big and small, from the nearby nations and empires. But why could the Luo alliance attract so many people? It is without a doubt our clan heads' righteous and loyal nature that set their minds at ease. This is a reputation we have to protect and, most of all, make excessive use of it. Ren Xiaoyun's eyes shook and his hand stopped to ponder. Zhuge Changfeng grinned. Inside he knew very well that the wrong word would have his blood paint these walls. Ren Xiaoyun was only testing him to check just how far the Luo clan would go for Zhuofan alone, just how much were the two tied up if the Luo clan still cared for Zhuofan, or if they were outraged over Zhuofan's actions. Ren Xiaoyun would have killed Zhuge Changfeng then and there. Following with the Luo clan, he had no intention of fostering a group of enemies. However, Zhuge Changfeng's answer was smooth, avoiding all pitfalls. If he had said there was no loyalty for Zhuofan left, then it would have been an outright lie. Zhuofan had been the Luo clan's previous steward that made the Luo clan what it was today. Yet the clan would just ignore all that. Ren Xiaoyun would have slapped him in the hereafter where he stood. Zhuge Changfeng was shrewder than most, saying there was some loyalty left, but not the main cause for the clan's decision. "We're not disregarding Zhuofan's gratitude, just thinking of profits. Furthermore, we're using that bit of loyalty to earn even more by making use of our reputation." This was enough to get Ren Xiaoyun to relax. Since they held interests above their past relations, he put them getting revenge for Zhuofan at the back of his mind. They had nothing to gain by fighting Heaven Trailing Sect anyway. As a man with an eye for profit himself, there was no way they would risk it all just for Zhuofan's hatred to be sated. That was what made this line so believable. It appealed to his own principles, while a Luo clan without an ounce of gratitude would have been worse, totally unreliable. He only wanted to see what the Luo clan cared about, happy to know now that it was Prof. Zhuge Changfeng was also sharp in pointing out Tianyu was doing so much better now. "You Guardian sects get almost double every year, all because of the Luo clan. Without us, you'd end up starving." This struck where it hurt the most and made him withdraw his impulse of slapping the Luo clan's envoy dead. "So, your request to let the traitors go was all about keeping your loyal reputation?" Ren Xiaoyun probed after a pause. "I have promised sect leader Xie to cull any traitors." Zhuge Changfeng shook his head. "Sect leader Ren, I would have never taken the risk if it was just merely out of reputation. We want to take them because we will fight the demon scheming sect." "What?" Ren Xiaoyun's eyes bugged out, his hand tightened with bloodthirst. "A secular clan wants to fight a sect? What a joke." Ren Xiaoyun was enraged. His heart was once again beating frantically. Heaven Trailing Sect was in cahoots with the demon scheming sect right now. Fighting them was fighting Heaven Trailing Sect, no? The Luo clan still cares about getting revenge for Zhuofan. Zhuge Changfeng read him like a book, sighing dramatically. "Sect leader Ren, that's not my meaning at all. We of course would want to live at peace with the three sects for thousands of years to come. But that doesn't mean the demon scheming sect wants to. I heard that the demon scheming sect's sect leader Xie has a nasty temper and is ruthless. He can kill Zhuofan all he wants, not like we can do anything. What I fear though, is that he'll drag innocent people into this. Because Zhuofan came from the Luo clan, he'll cull us all. We thus have no choice but gather anyone that can help and fight to the death. As Sir knows, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The demon scheming sect traitors don't hate you and Mystical Heaven sect the most, since they already attacked Mystical Heaven sect before. The two sects coming to attack was natural. They hate Xie Wuyue with a passion. So we must work together and resist the demon scheming sect." "Oh, so that's how it is." Ren Xiaoyun eased a breath. Luo clan is using its power to defend itself, not target demon scheming sect specifically and our alliance. This made him relax. He did not notice that Zhuge Changfeng's wording made it so venerable Bai's group hated only Xie Wuyue, keeping heaven trailing sect out of it. This was how Ren Xiaoyun decided to let them be when he joined Xie Wuyue in culling everyone. He feared retaliation. And since he had nothing against them to begin with, why push things so far? Besides, these men might become a weapon to keep demon scheming sect in check. Ren Xiaoyun thus made his decision, but he decided to play along for now, frowning. In the end, letting them go is up to the demon scheming sect. Heaven trailing sect can do it, but I can't say the same about demon scheming sect. Ha ha ha, sect leader Ren, who doesn't know that heaven trailing sect is the leader in the Empire's 3 guardian sects. Would the other 2 sect go against your word? Zhuge Changfeng praised. I'll be frank here, demon scheming sect and mystical heaven sect are nothing more than dying dogs. Can they still be part of the guardian sects? Especially demon scheming sect, after that calamity, how many experts does it have? How can it protect Qianyu? Our clan head decided to cut 10% out of their tribute and give it to heaven trailing sect. Shaken up, Ren Xiaoyun's heart burst with joy, but he didn't let it show. How can we? They have been through so much pain and doing this. Sect leader Ren, no need to be polite. Those capable always earn more. With the demon scheming sect's miserable state, it's not worth 20% of Qianyu's resources. Qianyu's safety would in the end depend on heaven trailing sect. Zhuge Changfeng cupped his hands as he finished his speech. Ren Xiaoyun frowned in fake anger. Are you trying to turn the 3 sects on each other? Demon scheming sect is about to become a middle 3 sect. Sect leader Ren, Zhuge Changfeng cut him off with sneer. After such an event, regardless of power and fame, would it still be fit to be a middle 3 sect? Ren Xiaoyun jerked awake and then laughed before slapping his shoulder. Ha ha ha. Chapter 792, Revenge. Chapter 792, Revenge. Proofreader. Papatonks. That settles it, sect leader Ren. Will Sir want to look at this year's shares? Zhuge Changfeng made a bow and gave a smile that was easy to understand. Ren Xiaoyun nodded. The flourishing of Qianyu depends on your Luo clan. Don't worry, as the Empire's 3 guardian sects, no one will dare to stir chaos in Qianyu, not even from the 3 sects. Ha ha ha, thank you, sect leader Ren. With another deep bow, Zhuge Changfeng withdrew from the hall. Seeing him go, Ren Xiaoyun nodded, feeling pleased with himself. From now on, the demon scheming sect would cease to be a threat to him, while Qianyu's representative was now under heaven trailing sect. Qianyu's resources, even trades, all would be in heaven trailing sect's pocket. The other 2 sects? Humph, they dare think about my money when they're hanging by a thread. In all honesty, after all this chaos Shuo Fan stirred up, the mystical heaven sect ended up ruined while the demon scheming sect crippled. Only heaven trailing sect was the big winner here, taking all of Qianyu's income for himself. I've won big time in this, ha ha ha. Ren Xiaoyun was giddy on the inside, then shouted, Guard. Yes, sir. A man in black up and appeared in a bow. Ren Xiaoyun spoke, use ascending jade to tell the pursuers of the demon scheming sect remnants to come back. Also, use my name to warn the demon scheming sect and mystical heaven sect that they are forbidden from interfering inside Qianyu and disturbing it. Yes, sir. The man bowed again but paused. Ren Xiaoyun frowned. Why are you still standing there? Sect leader, you've been talking with that man so far and I have yet to notify you. Actually, the pursuers of the demon scheming sect remnants have already returned. What? Who told them to come back so soon? I didn't even get to send them a message. Ren Xiaoyun raised an eyebrow. The man hesitated. Sect leader, from the elders recounting, they pursued the remnants at Qianyu's border when they met Luo clan's experts blocking them. They trapped the elders' team but then let them go, telling me to tell Sir that they have reached an agreement with sect leader. They were unclear and had not received Sir's message, but since they were let go, they came to confirm this. Sect leader. Stumped for a long time, Ren Xiaoyun came to and muttered, they said they had a deal with me. Even if that's true, it just took effect moments ago. Ren Xiaoyun turned to where Zhuge Changfeng was gone and sighed. They truly believed a mere old man's ramblings could persuade me. Truly cunning. The Luo clan has talents and it keeps growing. Sect leader. The man asked, Do I send the message? Ren Xiaoyun gnashed his teeth. I hate how a secular clan toyed with me, but I have to admit, Zhuge Changfeng's words moved me. Send it. Let the two sects know Tianyu's head of power, Luo clan, is Heaven Trailing sect's representative. It has no ties with the demon scheming sect. Yes, sir. The man nodded and vanished, leaving Ren Xiaoyun with his muttering, Zhuge Changfeng, the three sages, humph, I've now come to see what you are. A month later, Zhuge Changfeng was back in the Luo clan's home, Windgaze City. Everyone gathered in the hall, waiting for his news. Venerable Bai's group was the most tense, wanting to rush through Tianyu still and enter Chuanrong to escape pursuit. Luo Yunhai had to advise him many times to wait. Now that Steward Zhuge was back, they all gathered around eager to know the answer. Zhuge Changfeng calmly looked at them and smiled, milking the tense moment for all it was worth. The only ones calm were Leng Wuchang and Yu Ming, sipping tea at leisure. Steward Zhuge, how is it? Luo Yunhai could not hold it in smirking. Zhuge Changfeng was about to speak, but Leng Wuchang put one leg over the other as he began, Clan head, just look at his obnoxious grin. Of course he did it. Hey, old Leng, I risked my life in mediating the problem while you just relaxed in your comfy chair. Zhuge Changfeng glared. Leng Wuchang stuck his chin out, and? I've been making plans here. Shitty plans, more like it. You think I or Yu Ming can't do the same? Zhuge Changfeng mocked. Try having a chat with that stone-cold Ren Xiaoyun. See how you'd fare then. This time I have to agree with Steward Zhuge. He is much better at us in being a mediator. I am best at strategizing while you are at shooting your mouth. Yu Ming grinned. Leng Wuchang's face twitched. Hey, are you two ganging up on me now? My tactics aren't for show. Old Zhuge, did you divide Tianyu's resources again? Cutting 10% from the demon scheming sect and adding to Heaven Trailing sect? He, I'm not an unwanted contriver for nothing. Since when was it your plan? Zhuge Changfeng mocked. Since the demon scheming sect wants to fight us, there's no point in holding back at all. And we needed a new cover too. Giving 10% to Heaven Trailing sect will make the two sects look cross, but demon scheming sect's hatred will turn on Heaven Trailing sect. While mystical Heaven sect's unchanged income would make it look from the side at their scuffle. This way, it won't mind us as well. Adding Heaven Trailing sect's cover to that, the matter is settled. Really, Steward Zhuge, is it really over? Luo Yunhai cheered. Zhuge Changfeng nodded. Of course, clan head can rest easy. It wasn't much anyway, far more relaxed than Tianyu's previous tangled mess. First of all, the three sects aren't being difficult, especially Heaven Trailing sect. It sent troops to help the demon scheming sect, but it was only to control their growth. With it becoming a middle three sect, it posed a threat to Heaven Trailing sect. It was not for some meager 5,000 sacred stones, but to make sure that never happened, even going against Double Dragon Mana's rules openly since he has a goal, then that made it easier. Now that we're on his side, suppressing the demon scheming sect together would sure to put a wide smile on his face. And to avoid the demon scheming sect from being up against the wall, we only took just 10%, making it turn on Heaven Trailing sect as well, and not us. Otherwise, if we had cut every supply with it, it would be against Western Land's rules and force it to invade Tianyu. At least with some income from us, they'd think twice about ruining Tianyu. This makes us appear more neutral. Leng Wuchang explained. Zhuge Changfeng mocked. Easier said than done. Implementing it has a lot of dangers. Sir Leng, if it had been you who went, you'd have been obliterated. Hey, Leng Wuchang shouted. Luo Yunhai smiled as he eased up the tension. While none of these intellectuals boasted they were the best, neither was about to back down. Always butting heads when they met. Venerable Bai's side was stumped. They had been hounded by three sects, yet the matter had been solved just like that. This was the power of the three sages looking at them bickering. With Luo Yunhai mediating, Venerable Bai was gratified. They had little in terms of cultivation, but they had their own skills no one could surpass. All right, now, we should get ready to avenge Brother Zhuo. The bickering stopped and Luo Yunhai turned serious. His eyes read. The others were pensive as well. According to our scouts, Steward Zhuo had been under attack, resulting in an inferno for 1,000 miles and a barren wasteland for many more. Leng Wuchang grumbled. Just what has the Universal Righteous sect done? Zhuge Changfeng muttered. For revenge, we must first gather our strength. Our enemies are 4 sects, with one being a superior 3 sect. You still want revenge? Venerable Bai looked at them in disbelief. The enemy is stronger than you can imagine, a sect for thousands of years. Luo Yunhai shouted, no matter who it is, this vengeance shall be paid in full. The Luo clan rose under Brother Zhuo's protection. We all owe him our lives. This is something we must do. Luo Yunhai's bold words echoed in everyone's ears. Venerable Bai shouted, then, count us in as well. Chapter 793, Price. Chapter 793, Price. Proofreader, Papatonks. In the silent and cold hall, the glorious and dazzling throne struck a lonely figure. Xiewuo sat there, running his hands over its cold texture with a pleased grin. This seat is finally mine again. Sect leader. An aged voice came from behind. It's been months since we last heard of anything from the men we sent to pursue those traitors in Tianyu. I fear. Xiewuo's brow shook. Tianyu? Humph, I almost forgot that Shuofan came from there. Those ignorant fools must have sided with the traitors. How else could those weak fools escape from my palm? Venerable Shuo, contact Heaven Trailing Sect and Mystical Heaven Sect to send more men. It's time we change our representative in Tianyu. Yes, sir. Venerable Shuo nodded and was about to withdraw when a disciple rushed inside. He presented a jade. Sect leader, Double Dragon Manor sent word. Double Dragon Manor? Xiewuo mocked. Just what has that universal righteous sect done? They even let those girls escape and report to Double Dragon Manor. Not that it matters, humph. Double Dragon Manor's elders are coming to investigate. We'll just stick to our story, making them the traitors. I have been sect leader for centuries, it's the least my status can do. The only one who could speak up, High Venerable, had been silenced forever. They can look into us all they want, it'll still be as I say it. This has been an internal fight, resulting in the death of High Venerable. They won't meddle in that, ha ha ha. Venerable Shuo nodded, sect leader is brilliant. Yes. Xiewuo nodded, looking smug. Then he read the jade and burst out laughing, it's just like I thought. Double Dragon Manor warns us not to go too far. What worry can I have when they won't do anything? Pa. The jade slip was thrown to the ground like trash and Xiewuo mocked. Venerable Shuo smiled, sect leader, Double Dragon Manor has been respected by the 9 sects because of their strength, but also fairness, not involving itself in a sect's matter. This is also what ties its hands. As long as we paint it as having traitors, they can't do anything. Or who would have respected them, turning the entire Western lands into chaos. This is something they want to avoid at all costs. You're right, Venerable Shuo. The plan has been thought out, ha ha ha. Xiewuo waved his hand, get it done. Make sure you get those dregs tied to Shuofan. Report. Another shout came followed by another disciple. He held a jade slip as he bowed. Xiewuo was dubious as to who would send one now, but after reading it, his rage blew. He smashed the jade to the ground and cursed, damn that Sangha Empire. Only months before they begged demon scheming sect's men to come and now they go back on their words, refusing us. Is it the great empire of the previous superior 3 sect universal righteous sect? Those rotten bastards. Xiewuo cursed, I never thought a great empire would actually resort to being so shameless. Venerable Shuo scratched his nose and shook his head. Report tilde. Then came a long string of shouts as disciples came in one after the other before Xiewuo had a sinking feeling, but took them one at a time. Yet after each one, his anger only spiked higher before smashing them to pieces. This is absurd. What's going on with all of these empires? We've talked and agreed on something, to be under our protection, now they're all backing out. Even those middle 3 sects empires I ignored when the superior 3 sects empires were fighting over us now dislike us. Just what the hell is going on here? Sect leader. Venerable Shuo was quite calm, maybe they think that without Shuofan, there's no growth. Xiewuo glared at him, what did you say? They did it for Shuofan? No way. Demon scheming sect's sect leader is me, Xiewuo. Sect leader, stop lying to yourself. Venerable Shuo shook his head. Shuofan showed off in the Double Dragon gathering, destined to be the best in Western lands. Those empires were fighting to be under his wing, not under a lower 3 sect meant to grow into a middle 3 sect. Without Shui Fan, our value dropped sharply, making them back down. Shut your mouth. Xie Wuyue spat. You dare say that? Don't forget the sect has reached middle 3 sect status under my rule. Venerable Sha nodded. Yes, sect leader had done great things, but your greatest achievement was bringing Shui Fan. Xie Wuyue's face twitched, about to spit blood. Sect leader, I'm not here to criticize you, but as a sect leader you need to understand your limits. Venerable Sha laughed. To be fair, I must agree on Shui Fan replacing you. High Venerable had made the right choice. You became a sect leader to begin with because there was no one else better. Now that one appeared, a change was in order. As to why I have been always against Shui Fan, wanting to kill him, that's because he's my enemy. But regarding competence, I admire him wholly. Venerable Sha. Also. Venerable Sha snickered as Xie Wuyue shouted, Sect leader, your temper better change. As you know, the entire sect is now made up of us, old guys. I helped you get your seat, now just sit on it and not stir things up like before. When you want something that's not yours to begin with, there's always a price to pay, ha ha ha. Xie Wuyue was livid from anger, glaring as Venerable Sha just walked away. He then slumped in his lone and cold throne. He got his seat, but that was it. Report. Yet another disciple rushed in and Venerable Sha blocked him. Let me take those jade slips. Sect leader needn't bother. Yes. The disciple nodded and Xie Wuyue shook in rage and powerlessness reading it. Venerable Sha pondered before saying, Sect leader Ren is telling us not to make a scene in Tianyu and upset the peace between the 3 sects. And that from now on, Tianyu's tribute to us is 10% lower. What? Xie Wuyue jumped to his feet. Venerable Sha sighed, flicking the jade slip backward as he walked away. It seems Tianyu has some smart people to string Heaven Trailing Sect along. Meanwhile, in Blackwind Mountain. As a show of good faith, Luo Yunhai took Venerable Bai's group to where war puppets were made, in the bunker. But war puppets were no longer here, replaced now by a sparkling mountain of crystals scared stones. Fiend Yang cried out, how did you get so many? Luo Yunhai looked at him perplexed. This is a lot. After attacking Mystical Heaven Sect, Brother Zhuo saw our heavy losses and gave us 1 million of these rocks, saying they had way more spiritual energy than common spirit stones. They should help us raise many experts in a short time and recoup our losses. I was not sure what he meant then, though they sure have some good uses. We've just put them all here in bunker for a couple of days and already had a good few Radiant Stage Elders enter Ethereal Stage. Using them for arrays, they also boost their power quite a bit. 1 million. Face twitching, Fiend Yang grabbed Luo Yunhai's hands, touched to tears. Luo clan head, will follow you. I bet only Double Dragon Manor would have so many sacred stones in Western lands. No superior 3 sect could come close. With these resources, our power will rise higher and higher. Damn that Shui Fan. He lied to us, whining on his poverty, that cheapskate, when he could take out so many. If I knew, what was the point of going to Double Dragon Gathering anyway? The others nodded, then they crowded around Luo Yunhai, proclaiming their lifelong allegiance to the Luo clan. Luo Yunhai nodded in reflex, still shocked. Are these baubles that enticing? Seeing them so lively, 2 figures left the bunker in silence. They looked at the setting sun in sadness. Shuang'er noticed her grief and said, Don't worry, Sister Yunchang, with so many sacred stones, Brother Zhuo will be avenged. What's the point? It won't bring him back. Tearing up, Luo Yunchang's empty eyes reflected the fading twilight. In the Double Dragon Manor, Chu Qingcheng and the 2 girls watched the same sun. Their eyes filled with unwillingness. Footsteps were heard as Wu Qingqiu came from behind. Miss Chu, are you dissatisfied with Double Dragon Manor's method? Who here isn't? Brother Zhuo's death is unjust, but we must also take into account Double Dragon Manor's stance. It involves 4 sects. Then there's grave news from Eastern lands and their unrest. The exalted have no choice but to settle Western lands first. Clenching her teeth, Chu Qingcheng said nothing, her eyes hazy from tears of hatred. Chapter 794, Infernal Valley. Chapter 794, Infernal Valley. Proofreader, Papatonks. SSS tilde. In a pitch-black space, a golden flame raged. It grew and grew, taking the shape of a mile-long dragon, shedding some light to this dark place. Roar. A draconic roar came from the golden fire, and it looked below at the tiny humans. Only two of them. One stood there with utmost respect and a slight bow, Yi Lin. The other was an icy corpse, covered in gaping wounds from head to toe. Looking at the corpse, the dragon rumbled, "Is he the one you spoke of?" "Yes, master. I have brought him." Yi Lin bowed, squinting. The fire dragon sized him up. "You sure were vicious. I only asked you to bring him and use the dragon breath pill if necessary to warn him, not to show up here with him beaten so bad there's not a breath in him. Is it revenge for last time? But if he's the one you told me, why did he get hurt so easily? And you're completely unharmed, unlike last time being carried here from the Double Dragon Gathering." "Master, am I so petty?" Yi Lin sighed. "I fought in the Double Dragon Gathering with my name as a sacred beast inheritor on the line. A loss is a loss, why be so narrow-minded about it? Moreover, since I already lost once, I wouldn't have the heart to fight him again." The huge draconic eye shook, waiting for his explanation. Yi Lin bowed. "Master, when I rushed over, he was already surrounded by the Universal Righteous Sect's hundreds of people. I have used the dragon breath pill Master gave me to get rid of them, then brought this half-dead body here." "I see, he's been attacked." The fire dragon looked down and became astounded. Just who on earth is his master? He has too many inheritances. Many of them belonged to astounding figures, no less renowned than myself. Yi Lin nodded. "Yes, master, when I fought him, I also felt his inheritance was complex, not just from one person. But even against his chaotic and incomplete powers, I still lost. I have shamed master." "No, if you were to lose to anyone else, that's when you would have shamed me. But losing to him is justified." The fire dragon's face was solemn, startled. Yi Lin wondered. Why is the always competitive master suddenly soft? He actually admitted his disciple is weaker than another. The fire dragon said, "Yi Lin, you must have heard me telling you about the 10 ancient sovereigns and us 5 great sacred beasts, with many other strong beings in the sacred domain. Smiley face, the 10 ancient emperors are actually in a stage far above the one the demonic emperor was in, despite having the same title. Now I changed it to reflect that." Nodding, Yi Lin blinked, waiting for him to continue. "Now I'll share with you the source of his inheritance." The draconic claw whistled in the air and pointed at Shui Fan's right arm. "This arm comes from Soaring Chelin, a part of a real sacred beast that was born from the primal chaos. It's on an entire different level from you, who has been transformed to be in between man and beast. If he had known how to use it, one fist would have been able to render you heavily wounded. At most, only 3 punches could you take on." SSS tilde. Yi Lin gasped in shock, staring hard at that arm. He thought Shui Fan and he were the same, sacred beast inheritors, their bodies transformed by sacred beasts. But now he realized that he had a real sacred beast part on him. There was just no comparison. Yi Lin sighed, feeling down. However, how could a sacred beast simply give their body to humans? When the rejection happened, it would have taken his life. Can it be then that 9 Serenities research was a success? Ignoring his disciple's glum look, the fire dragon frowned. "That settles it, his 9 Serenities successor. Only that old freak could resort to such twisted and outrageous methods." Yi Lin cried out, "The 3rd strongest of the 10 ancient sovereigns, 9 Serenities sovereign?" "Yes, I noticed the peculiarity of his yuan qi in his dantian and found it to be a blend of thousands of things. I once heard that 9 Serenities comprehended a skill that can vie with Heavenly Sovereign's Void Eye, compatible with any kind of constitution. Now that I see it, the cultivation method has indeed been passed down." The fire dragon nodded. "It's because of this that his body can hold so many different powers without clashing. Especially the power of us, 5 great sacred beasts." Vaulting Kuanpeng's chaos flame merged with the spirit, Soaring Chelin's almighty flesh, Thunder Phoenix's berserk purple lightning flooding his veins, all lay quiet. If it were anyone else, these 3 alone would have ended him if they clashed. "What?" Yi Lin was shocked. You're telling me he has 3 great sacred beast powers? He also sensed it while fighting Zhuo Fan, but hearing his master confirm it was still a shock. One would already be immensely prideful for having one, yet this guy up and had 3 of them. What kind of a lucky bastard was he anyway? He would rather believe Zhuo Fan was just a sacred beast inheritor, with the other 2 coming from who knew where but had to be given back. The other option was simply insane. Humph, 3 sacred beast powers? You still have no idea. The fire dragon mocked, moving a sharp claw to peel the eyelid off Zhuo Fan's right golden eye. Yi Lin, see here? Remember it, the divine eye of the void of the strongest in sacred domain, heavenly sovereign. He is also the one us sacred beasts could never defeat. Eye twitching, Yi Lin was overwhelmed. Heavenly sovereign's successor? Precisely. Flaring his snout, the fire dragon's eyes flashed with hatred, but for him to have heavenly sovereign's skill, it must be that is unrelated to him, instead getting the treasure Qilin stole. Humph, heavenly sovereign would be so pissed to know his precious skill got leaked, ha ha ha. The fire dragon cackled, imagining the look of anger on heavenly sovereign's face. Yi Lin cried, 3 great sacred beasts, 2 sovereigns? That's 5 peak inheritance. Who the hell is he? It doesn't matter, for in the end he's a really lucky winner. The fire dragon raised an eyebrow. Also, Yi Lin, I have something to tell you, but don't be jealous. He doesn't have just 5, but 1 more. The fire dragon pointed at Zhuo Fan's belly. Whoosh tilde. A light flashed and blood infant turned into a demonic sword. Under the immense heat of the flame and the fire dragon's might, the demonic sword shook, then returned back to Zhuo Fan's body. Yi Lin was stumped. Master, is that a sword? No, a spirit. The fire dragon said, there was a rumor about Patriarch Blood Demon I told you about. He was only in the saint stage yet refined a blood infant that none in the sovereign stage dared to mess with. But after he died, his skill was lost. I never thought I'd meet it here, added to a sacred weapon to become a sword spirit. Ha ha ha, the power blood infant has when reaching saint stage while using a sacred weapon will be unthinkable. I bet it can easily dispatch average sovereigns. The fire dragon laughed, his eyes pensive. Yi Lin looked at Zhuo Fan with a complicated look. 6 peak inheritances. Now this is heaven's favorite. How can I compare to him, when I only have 1? Ahem, getting my inheritance is the highlight of anyone's life. And what's the use of having so many anyway? Unable to reach their peak will still get you beaten up. The fire dragon scolded. Yi Lin grinned, and if he does train them? Well, the fire dragon sighed, then he'll be unstoppable. Yi Lin stood there stunned, but then, the fire dragon shook his head, which is impossible. The ultimate skills of sovereigns and the abilities of sacred beasts came about after millions of years. To master them all is just not feasible. It's better if you stick with mine, on the path of the fire dragon, rather than bite more than you can chew. And you don't have 9 Serenity's sovereign's inheritance either and can't agree to having so many powers. You'll only die. Disappointed still, Yi Lin nodded in the end, then he looked down on Zhuo Fan. Master, his body shows no sign of life, ruined. But his soul might be saved. Ha ha ha, his soul is under Chaos Flame's protection and should recover by himself. But wounded as he is, only if I trigger it. As for his body, it's not ruined just yet. He has the blood infant protecting it. It holds the source of life. As long as blood infant is around, his body will never die. His severely damaged body needs to be repaired, is all. The fire dragon hissed as he ripped a golden scale, placing it over Zhuo Fan's body. Then a scorching golden flame engulfed him, burning hotter and hotter. Chapter 795, Revival. Chapter 795, Revival. Proofreader. Papatonks. Golden flame refining, decimating dragon scale armor. Eyes squinting, Yi Lin watched the familiar spectacle for a long time. It was the same way he was saved back then. Master, you're using your reverse scale again and decimating golden flame to refine his body. Won't that mean he'll be just like me? Why, jealous? Never once considering his disciple's opinion, the fire dragon nodded. Yi Lin's face twitched and sighed. That'll give him a 7th peak inheritance. The decimating golden flame that only I had, now he has it while I don't have what he has. It's hard to feel at ease, master. Humph, rotten brat, what's there to be unsettled about? The fire dragon smirked. Can you even do what I told you to do alone? Haha, I know how improbable that is. Since such a perfect and rare specimen came, a kindred spirit as well, I'll be sure to use everything to save him, to strengthen him so he could finish my work. Yi Lin's brow twitched. Kindred? Yes, kindred. Fire Dragon's eyes flashed and revealed a nasty grin. Those huge eyes never left the ball of fire below. 9 serenities. In a hazy area, a lonely shadow floated around, perplexed. Who is it? What are you calling? His questions went unanswered, the voices coming and going, shouting 9 serenities' name on and on. The shadow questioned some more, but no answer was provided. He chose to ignore them, just floating there in this desolate place. Suddenly, an aged figure stood before him, with clothes as black as night. The old man faced away from him. The shadow had a peculiar look as he asked, "Who are you?" The old man was ever silent, ignoring him just as the voices did. It just floated forward. Wait. Then the old man spoke. Forward is the great beyond. If you step any further, there'll be no going back. Frowning, the shadow asked, "What's this great beyond?" "A place where your spirit fades." The old man replied, looking around. He saw nothing but mist, with no paths around. But when he looked in front, there was pitch-black darkness. "Where should I go?" The old man paused, left speechless. He finally sighed, "Wait here." "Oh." The shadow nodded, standing there like a good child. In front there was pitch-blackness and behind, darkness. Around him there was nothingness swirling, with only he and the old man standing here. 9 serenities. "We've waited your return." The drawn-out calls came once again. The old man shook. The shadow asked, "Are they calling for you?" "Yeah." "Why don't you answer them?" "They can't hear me, nor would they dare to talk back." The old man's back shook a bit and sighed. "I have promised something I failed to do and can't return." The shadow looked around, at the endless haze without any path in sight. "Yeah, there's no return without a path. Unless." The shadow pointed at the pitch blackness in front. "You go there. But once I do, I'll never come out, never coming back." The old man sighed. "I still want to return. I can't ever go forward." The shadow nodded after a pause, then floated forward. As he went, pitch blackness crept behind him, cutting his retreat. The old man shouted, "What are you doing? Didn't I told you not to go? But this is the only way." Shaking, the shadow looked at the old man. Puzzled, the old man shivered, as if afraid the shadow just kept going forward. "Hold on a minute." The old man cried, "Before you go, mind answering a question of mine?" "What question?" "Who are you?" Startled, the shadow frowned for a long time, then shook his head. "I don't know." "Who am I?" "Promise me this, before you can answer my question, you can't go forward." The old man spoke solemnly. The shadow scratched his head and nodded. But then he was perplexed again as he took another step forward unconsciously. "Who am I? Who am I? I have let you all down. I can't go back." The old man sighed and shook all over. "My spirit is barely holding on. It's so weak I can't even remember my name, haha. I want to go with him. Who am I?" The shadow passed by the old man and failed to notice that the old man was walking by his side. Deeper into the abyss then, in this hazy world, a blinding light flashed. A huge ball of golden fire shone. It cast its light upon the shadow, revealing a very familiar face. As if by agreement, an azure flame ignited on his forehead, soon covering his entire body and turning him into a human-shaped azure fire. "Who am I?" The shadow's eyes were hazy as it muttered. But as the azure flame spread to his eyes, he woke up shouting, "Aim Zhuofan! Demonic Emperor Zhuofan!" Like a vow, the shout dispelled the abyss, making the ever-encroaching pitch-blackness fade away. The darkness faded and gave way to glorious and vibrant light. Zhuofan floated now towards the golden flames, but before he melded with them, he turned to look at the old man fading away from the light. "Who are you?" Zhuofan shouted. The old man was no longer visible, but just as Zhuofan was entering the golden flame, the old man's voice reached him. "We will meet again. On the edge of death, or when we achieve Tao, ha ha ha. Boom. With a huge explosion, fire motes flew all over and Zhuofan came out of it with golden shining in his eyes, filled with flames. His body was covered in golden scales releasing blistering heat, capable of melting anything. You're finally back, child. Zhuofan was still out of all that was happening when he heard a rumbling voice. He turned his head with a start and saw a huge dragon head staring right at him with an eerie look. The golden flames burned so hot it warped the space around it. Zhuofan cried out, "One of the 5 great sacred beasts, decimating dragon ancestor? Am I in Infernal Gorge? Hey, right you are. This is my domain, welcome." The dragon ancestor let out a wave of scorching air, forcing Zhuofan back. Zhuofan was perplexed. What am I doing here? Yi Lin read his mind. I brought you. When you were fighting the Universal Righteous Sect siege, you were at the end of your life, your soul and body about to go cold. Only my master could save you. That's why I brought you here. Yi Lin. Zhuofan's brow shook. Zhuofan pondered then shouted, "What about the girls? How are they?" Yi Lin raised an eyebrow. "Since when did you care about someone else? Just tell me, are they all right?" "They're fine. When I arrived, only you were fighting, blocking hundreds of men from Universal Righteous Sect. I did you a favor and killed them all. There should be no pursuers." "Good, that's good." Easing a breath he'd been holding, Zhuofan was relieved. In his persistent determination to hold on for 3 days, his consciousness had faded at some point. One might have even ruled him dead. But he went on, hanging on to that last breath. That was what kept him fighting for so long, while he knew nothing of what was happening nor if the girls got away. The decimating dragon ancestor asked curiously, "Child, are those people related to you?" Dragon ancestor, my wife is with them." Zhuofan bowed, knowing how to clean up his act before such an almighty existence. His answer made the dragon snort, flaring its nostrils. "Heed my warning. Break all ties with them. You're not even aware you sunk so deep because of them. If you really do care about your wife, stay away from her." "What?" Zhuofan stood there dumbstruck. Chapter 796, 10 Sovereigns, 10 Paths. Chapter 796, 10 Sovereigns, 10 Paths. Proofreader, Papa Tonks. Glancing at the dumbstruck Zhuofan, the dragon ancestor turned to Yi Lin. "Leave us, there's something I want to speak to the kid." The dragon then clawed the air following the wave of heat. The space tore, revealing on the other side a magnificent landscape. Yi Lin looked at the dazed Zhuofan then bowed and left. The tear sealed behind him and this area was once again a searing inferno. "Just what's going on? What do you mean by that?" Zhuofan's brow shook and he felt uneasy. The dragon ancestor had touched his greatest fear. The dragon shouted, "Before I answer, you must first be honest with me. Who are you? Why do you have so many great legacies despite being so young?" Zhuofan did not reply. It was his greatest secret, and not something that could be shared. "Talk, or you'll one day be sorry. Don't say I didn't warn you." The dragon ancestor's roar gave a stern warning. Sighing, Zhuofan felt helpless. He had lost all grounds in this negotiation. Not that it mattered much. Vaulting Kuanping had him explain himself, and now talking to this dragon ancestor wouldn't be much of a difference. He wanted to know why the dragon ancestor wanted him detached from others, especially Qing Cheng. So he began detailing his 2 lives, making sure to include his meeting with Kuanping and his request to find the other sacred beasts. The dragon ancestor was stunned. He sighed, "Kid, you're really something to have such strange circumstances. You must know that any one of those legacies is a dream come true for others. Yet you took them all for yourself, ha ha ha. Congratulations, especially on 9 Serenity's dubious arts, allowing you to come back through grudges. Even I have to show my admiration for such skill." Zhuofan chuckled and nodded, feeling the same way towards 9 Serenity's sovereign's research. However, the dragon ancestor changed his tone, his maw perked in a savage grin. "Kid, despite the amazing luck on you, it fails you when you most need it. You've been had by all Kuanping and now you're stuck with us. Your life is destined to be spent in fear, under constant despair. Your life might end the next moment." Zhuofan's heart trembled from shock. Where did that come from? The ancient period. With a long sigh, the dragon ancestor released a heat wave and his fiery bulk shook. As he gazed at the sky, he struck a lonely figure. In the time of the primal chaos, when heaven and earth began to take shape, we were born, graced with 5 primal abilities. Everywhere we went, the beasts saw us as kings and the humans unable to reach our level. But us, 5 great sacred beasts, only had interest in each other, to duel and settle once and for all who had supreme dominion over this world. The fights were endless. The disregard for humans was so severe, we saw them as nothing but snacks. This is how we spent the next few millions of years, always fighting and never winning, unable to settle on a one ruler. Kuanping, the old geezer, maybe his gentle chaos flame being able to harmonize yin and yang had something to do with it, was slick and cunning. This made him be seen as a friend by the other 4 sacred beasts from the constant mediating of our conflicts. But he was far from being fit to be the leader of us 5 great sacred beasts. None of us was any weaker than the other to begin with. Zhuofan nodded. Sacred beasts were not much different from wild beasts. Unless beaten into submission, it would just not listen. Preaching and smooth talking was pointless, but Dragon Ancestor continued, one day, beyond our knowledge, our carefree days ended. The humans we disregarded so much revealed to have 10 strong members. They had deep insights in the workings of the world, creating remarkable arts that held the power to contend with our might. To the point the top 3 were able to beat us. These 10 later on became the 10 ancient sovereigns. Their power was called the 10 paths to heaven. They can break the world and seize all. Under their guidance, humanity began to comprehend the Tao, beginning to cultivate and grow stronger. Countless experts rose to prominence while the supremacy of the sacred beasts upon the world began to wane. They were driven back to the forests and mountains. Only then did we realize that heaven was impartial. While our might was incredible, our intelligence was not. Be it sacred beasts or spiritual beasts, none could understand the heart's mysteries, blocking our advance. Humanity was weak, but was very sharp too, with the chance to rise to the top. Especially those 10, they have become the peak of this world's power. Dragon Ancestor sighed, by the way, kid, don't you have Patriarch Blood Demon's blood infant in you as well? That's borrowed power, something that will never get you to the top. Do you know why Patriarch Blood Demon was stuck in the saint stage and the sovereigns avoided him? Isn't it because he was a show-off and ended up being killed before reaching the sovereign stage? Zhuofan asked. Dragon Ancestor laughed at his answer, mocking, even you're giving credence to rumors, kid? An outstanding expert will treasure his life the higher he rises. With how cultivation takes ages to advance, who would show off? Knowing he was in the saint stage, no matter how strong, he'd be suicidal going against a sovereign. Startled, Zhuofan pondered a bit before nodding. True, if I were in Patriarch Blood Demon's stead, getting to the sovereign stage was a much better option than to flex. Then why? Dragon Ancestor spoke, the 10 paths to heaven are finite and all accounted for. For one to rise, another had to fall. This is why the Patriarch Blood Demon always lived on edge, challenging the sovereigns, which ended up being his downfall as well. As an ex-demonic emperor of the sacred domain, you should have a broader horizon. Haven't you ever noticed that all the arts and skills in the world have their roots going back to these 10 paths? Trembling, Zhuofan was in a state of shock. That means... Precisely. Dragon Ancestor's eyes flashes, as long as the 10 sovereigns live, even if humanity cultivates, it will never reach higher. This is a world constant, its balance. It places a limit on the number of ultimate experts at one time to maintain it. The 10 paths to heaven are in balance. That's why one can only rise when another has fallen. Everything revolves around them. Stunned, Zhuofan clenched his fists in denial. Doesn't that mean that all cultivators are stuck in the saint stage? Not necessarily. Dragon Ancestor shook his head. I already said, if one falls, another may rise. Humanity cultivates to comprehend the Tao, to the point of reaching the peak and seeing the nature of the world. Only most cultivators' insight falls in line with the 10 paths, thus cutting off your future. But by gaining insight in a path outside of these 10, then you'll be a fully fledged sovereign in your own right. Then, as heaven wills it, with the rise of one, another has to fall. When Patriarch Blood Demon challenged the sovereigns, He did it in belief that his blood path was outside of theirs, a new path that allowed him to dethrone one of the 10 sovereigns. He was mistaken, unfortunate, as the demonic blood path fell under 9 Serenity's path. This bound him to the saint stage for the rest of his life. His blood infant was amazing, yes, but it was only a skill, while his cultivation could never reach the height of power the 10 sovereigns enjoyed. Zhuo Fan nodded. This explains why after years and years, there was no other sovereign appearing besides the 10 ancient sovereigns. The requirements are too high. Even if the 10 sovereigns weren't there, one must first comprehend their path to become its patriarch before rising into the sovereign stage. In a meritorious world such as this, hardly anyone had such qualifications. My master, Elder Yuan, has a high chance of comprehending the heart path. A shame his aptitude lacks, stunting his cultivation stage despite his deep insight. Zhuo Fan shook his head and sighed. The road to the sovereign stage is beyond difficult. Dragon Ancestor looked at him hard then smiled. Ha ha ha, kid, you think that's hard? Wrong again. For us, the 5 great sacred beasts and the 10 sovereigns, the sovereign stage is in the past. What all of us really care about is that even in the sovereign stage, we're all nothing but the world's toys, under constant threat and unable to dominate the world in the truest sense. The 10 paths to heaven might look unflinching, but they aren't without dangers. They are at risk of being replaced. That is why we wanted to strive for a higher stage. This is what brought the next series of great events. It even included your fate. Trembling, Zhuo Fan's expression turned heavy as he frowned, waiting for the explanation. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,